The huge creature screamed at Dan. "This is the end. Let him give up the soul stone and then maybe they will let him live." But Dan thought it was stupid. He didn't intend to give up the stone. After all, this is a gift from his mentor. Moreover, this is what will help him become a god. People around shouted what Dan was going to do. Dan stated if he turned out to be too weak, and if he had seen someone more worthy in front of him, he would have handed over the stone. But they dared to use Erica's name to lure him into a trap. People were screaming. Dan was going crazy. He was burning his own soul. It looked like he was really finished. Then the chief ordered to stop him quickly before Dan made a breakthrough. They grabbed Dan from all sides and laughed, saying that he just needed to wait until Dan burns his soul to ashes, and then the soul stone will be theirs. But Dan didn't think so. He told his teacher that he himself would not be able to return, but he would be able to destroy these freaks. And then the mentor's name would not be disgraced. The guys tried to quickly sever the connection between them. But it was too late. They began to be sucked into the abode of the dead. The guys screamed that Dan himself would not survive. But Dan didn't mind dying if the scum went with him to the next world. Then the boys helplessly screamed that they didn't want to die. And Dan turned to the mentor silently. He felt sorry. It would have been wonderful if it had really been she who had invited Erica here. Suddenly Dan heard his name being called, and opening his eyes he saw Erica. She threw a flower to Dan and told him to hold on to it. Dan was able to catch the flower. Dan said that Erica actually sacrificed part of her soul to summon the soul stone. The flower grew, and Dan was saved. Erica was glad that she made it in time. But Dan was worried about her and asked her to leave as soon as possible. But Erica objected. Evil creature. Dan himself opened the abode of the dead. If you don't use the soul stone, his true soul will dissipate. He had such a hard time winning the favor of the deity. But unfortunately, before Erica could finish speaking, she was shot and began to fall rapidly downwards. Dan couldn't just watch this. He jumped off the flower after Erica. Unfortunately, they were unable to survive, but the flower split and entered their hands. This is how the two heroes of the story died together. Dying together is better than living without each other. Dan called for Erica until his last breath, when suddenly he opened his eyes and saw a light. The elf woman asked what was wrong. Everything was fine with him. It seems she is the mother of this child. The man replied, "There is no need to worry. The young master is fine. He is enveloped in such a powerful energy. He has never felt anything like it." While they were talking, Dan was wondering how he got here. He just blinked and was already here. He also noticed that part of the soul stone, that is, Erica with its second half, was also supposed to be reborn in this world. Now Dan was wondering where to look for Erica. It seemed like his life's goal had already been set. The mother wanted to look at her baby. She also felt powerful vibrations of magic. Dan realized that this was his mother, and she was not human. But there was something that confused him. Her breathing is so weak as if she is dying. Well, childbirth is no joke. The mother's life energy is slowly fading. The birth has sucked all her energy out. Dan couldn't allow this. His mana now was just remnants from his past life. It will dissipate very soon. Dan decided to use it to prolong his mother's life. The door swung open and a man entered the room in a panic, shouting, "Darling, is it okay?" He was a man, and it seems he was her husband. He was worried about his wife. Well, a wife is more important than a child. Mom calmed Dad down, and Dan looked with displeasure at the man who forced his mother to give birth to 5 children. The man next to her thanked Cecile for her incredible work, and Cecile thanked her for her kindness. Cecile was worried that the baby would not be able to become an outstanding commander, but he could become a wizard. This surprised the man. A mage in a dragon blood family is a great rarity. Their family controls the strongest legions, which have been successfully guarding the borders for many years. The underground dragon army and the griffin army, although they are known as invincible, can only rely on strategy. With a mage on their side, the kingdom will be more protected. This is their first mage in the family. Cecile told her father not to worry. His mana was much more powerful than anyone in the elf clan. She is confident that he will be the strongest magician in the kingdom. Dan felt a lot of pressure. But since they had such hopes, he would not hesitate. He wanted to find Erica as soon as possible. In this world, there is no such thing as cultivation. Here everything is based on magic and martial arts, the basis of which is mana and the spirit of struggle, respectively. Moreover, many races coexist in this world: elves, dwarves, humans, and the monsters. Instead of coexisting, it's better to say that they are fighting among themselves. Among them, humans are the strongest and most dominant species, and Dan is currently in the Storm Kingdom, which is divided into 39 provinces, although the Storm Kingdom occupies a decent territory. They are surrounded by enemies on all sides. While all this information is useless for little Dan, now he was much more worried about this. Dan prayed silently to be saved. But the father only laughed that his son had only been in this world for 100 days and was already popular. The woman said that there would be a gala reception in honor of the young gentleman's anniversary. The most reverend lord himself will baptize him. What name will Dan be baptized with? Cecile said that the bishop had learned about the baby Maine and would therefore baptize him himself. As for the name, they will announce it later. Knowing that Dad will choose the name, Dan became a little tense. But his mother said that his father would give him a wonderful name and asked him to be a good boy. Cecile took her baby and went upstairs. People became quiet. After putting Dan down, Cecile said that everything would start soon. We just had to wait a little. Dan didn't understand what was happening, but he was glad of the silence, because it allowed him to practice Tai Chi. Even though this world is not familiar with the practices of Tao, the spiritual energy is quite concentrated. He found that the Taoist spiritual ki and the energy of this world were quite similar. Just as Dan was concentrating, he was disturbed again. It was the baby's aunt, and she was showering baby Dan with compliments. It seemed that Dan's aunt was a queen, and the king was nearby. A noticeable difference in appearance could not be avoided. Dan realized that this old man was the head of the Storm Kingdom, and that Auntie was a flower stuck in the manure. The king thanked Cecile for having such a talented child. Suddenly, a Disney villain appeared and said that the ceremony would soon begin. Auntie told the princess of the Stoneheart family that she had no right to set foot on the parade ground, but the old man said that she was here as his assistant and asked her not to interfere. Like any head of a church, he allows himself to behave as he pleases, relying on his authority. A Disney villain asked him to hand over the child to her, and Dan was angry that the woman looked down on his family, so he decided to take full revenge for his family. The king told her that shouting was not allowed here, and she could not continue the ceremony in this form. The revenge was successful, but it seemed to anger the old man a little. He noticed that Mana Dan was unique, but somehow different, and he decided to keep an eye on him. Dan tensed up, because who knows what will happen to him and his family if they realize that he is not from here. Dan decided to be careful with this guy. The ceremony ended quickly and it was time to name the baby. Dad went wild and gave him the name K Lung, literally dragon's blood. This is the name Dan will have in this life. From now on, we will call him K. 3 years later, little K has grown up, and today is his birthday. He ran to play. Cecile shouted that his aunt was waiting for him, but K had already run away. Then Cecile warned him that his father would be in trouble if his father found out about this. K was not averse to being beaten a little for the sake of freedom, when suddenly he heard cries for help. And then I heard other voices. Someone was shouting at the girls, calling them mudbloods. The nasty boys continued to call the little girls names. One of them said that if they did not thank the 5th prince, he would beat them to death, but they were interrupted by K, shouting how dare they mock people. The crowned bastard asked who this was, a child of the dragon family. It was none of his business, but K shouted that he wouldn't let him hurt them. The boy warned that K had mana, but the prince did not think the 3-year-old was dangerous. And he shouted only because the little one's family had been serving his family for so long. He wouldn't touch him, but K wasn't listening to the pompous child at all. K went to help the kids, telling them that they shouldn't be afraid. He was nearby, of course. This ignoring angered the boy. Shouting that he would teach K a good lesson, he threw him. But this didn't frighten K at all. He landed easily on his feet. Then the prince shouted, "Even if the queen likes K, it doesn't mean anything. He is the king's son. Even if he kills K, nothing will happen to him." But K was not afraid at all. A bunch of fools won't be able to teach him a lesson. He's not going to hold back. Seeing K's high-level magic, the children were as frightened as the prince. Although the prince tried not to show it, he shouted that he was a prince. He can kill the mudbloods right now, and K won't be able to do anything. The asshole continued to call the girls names and hit them, which infuriated K. K recalled his past when he was also beaten for being an orphan. Then he shouted that if they didn't stop right now, he wouldn't stand on ceremony with them. The bastard kept repeating that he was a prince, and he can do whatever he wants. These boys were from that villain's family, and they were at odds with K's family. They both decided that their family would appreciate them if they beat K. Without a second thought, they shot arrows at K. They really want to kill a 3-year-old child. If you don't finish off the wolf, there will be dire consequences, K thought. There is no need to blame him if you yourself are so inhuman. However, K doesn't want to cause trouble for his aunt and family. If his victory is so absolute, it could lead to bad consequences for K. Still, he was being watched, so K decided to pretend that he was being caught. The boys began celebrating their victory early. Only K was okay, he told them. They started it first. Then he summoned the tree spirit technique, and the vines quickly flew towards the boys. The prince continued to yell that he was the king's son, and that he could not be treated like this. The boys shouted that they wouldn't do it again, apparently afraid of the poison of the vines. These screams were heard by Cecile, who was nearby, and K reminded the boys that a minute ago, they tried to kill him. The vines won't do anything to them. They're not meant to kill. K just wanted to teach them a lesson. Then Cecile came. But K didn't notice her and used the wrath of thunder on the boys. Despite K's talent, he is still a kid, so he quickly became exhausted. A little later, K opened his eyes and seeing his mother, asked if he had fallen asleep. Cecile said that he had fallen asleep. He had lost consciousness and had already forgotten what he had done. She didn't know that Kay had become so strong. She had a hard time pulling the children out and healing their wounds. This didn't make Kay happy, because they were trying to kill him and those girls. Even though the prince threw a tantrum, Kay acted in self-defense, so everything is fine. But Cecile, as a parent, pointed out that Kay was very impulsive in his actions. Kay asked if she also thought he shouldn't have gotten involved with the prince, but Cecile said, "Silly girl, he saved 2 innocent people." She's more concerned that Kay, at 3 years old, is using such strong magic. There are powerful people in the world who can use their power to hinder Kay, but his mother promised to always protect Kay, and Dan was glad that he had a mother. In his past life he didn't have a family, so in this life he promised to take care of his family. Papa returned and Cecile immediately asked what the royal family had said, and the Pope responded rather sadly that the royal family would not press charges. And here's the reason: they insisted on sealing Kay's magic, and he agreed. Of course, Cecile was angry and flatly refused to agree to this. It seems that the father was spineless, so he did not object. Unlike her father, Cecile was not a wimp as she had promised. She decided to protect her son. Having taken Kay into the elf clan, the master asked her to calm down, convincing him that it would only benefit Kay himself, that they would only seal away part of the magic. As he grows older and his magical ability improves, the seal will weaken. Dan knew that if they didn't agree to this, they wouldn't be left alone. Besides, with his abilities, it won't be difficult for him to break this seal. That's why the kid said he didn't mind. She always taught him that a man should be responsible for his actions. The master turned out to be humorous. He said that with Kay's magic everything would be fine, and he advised me to study hard and work on myself. Then I could become an outstanding wizard. The next day they got together and went to get rid of Kay's magic. The parents were not allowed in, for the master assured them that everything would be quick and painless. He needs to lie down on this elevation. In the process he can take a nap. Kay lay down with these shady guys and they immediately began to cast spells. It turns out that this is a kind of magical network that will lock his magic. Kay could have easily broken it himself, but he had just calmed down when he suddenly felt a sharp pain. The high priest was to blame for this, as was to be expected. You can't trust the holy men. The old man brazenly began to torture a 3-year-old child for one of his misdeeds. This old bastard would be incredibly cruel if there weren't other mages there. He would definitely kill him, but fortunately the old man won't be able to do it. Cecile was angry with everyone for what they did to her son. Even the king didn't dare object to the angry mother. Dean talks to the Stoneheart family. The little ones were worried about Kay, so they came to visit him. Both father and son were crazy, and the old man dared to hit the child, declaring that it was all because of them. He stated that Cecile should take out her anger on these two. Cecile replied that the king himself should understand that they had nothing to do with it. Although she will protect her child, she will never hurt innocent people. It was clear who should become the ruler of the country and who should not. At that very moment, Kay woke up. He managed to break these chains with the help of his Tai Chi technique. Cecile exhaled. The seal could not be completely broken. After all, Kay was still very weak. And Cecile asked what it was. The master said with admiration that the seal was broken. He was interested in how he managed to do this, but he couldn't tell about Tai Chi Kay, so he decided to help the children. He said that he was led out of the darkness by 2 beautiful voices of princesses. They saved him, then asked if the king would punish his saviors. Even the worthless king answered, "Of course no." Cecile demanded that the seal be removed immediately, but the master replied that he could not do this. Only Kay could destroy it. Of course, Cecile was unhappy with this, because the old people were burying Kay's talent. Then the master suggested turning to Cecile's mother for help. Kay asked not to be angry with the master, because it was not his fault. The main thing is that he is alive. They will definitely come up with something. Cecile was proud of her kind son. She decided to take him to the elf clan. The king spoke in the background. The elven queen will be able to remove the seal, and Kay can ask for anything as compensation. Kay asked to take care of the 2 princesses and allow them to study with the master. The king surprisingly quickly agreed and promised to fulfill everything. The little girls were probably incredibly grateful to Kay for his kindness. A few days later, Kay was extremely excited about the trip. The princesses wanted to say goodbye. Kay asked if the princesses were here to see him. The little girls said that they understood that it was not because of them that he broke the seal. They are grateful to him. No one has ever been so kind to them. Kay said that it was nothing, and there was no need to thank him. But the girls decided to give Kay a gift. It was a falcon, the little ones explained. That day they saved him from the 5th prince, and they were saved by Kay, so they decided that he should become Kay. They hope he can become his faithful companion. Kay promised to take care of him, and he gave him the name Lei, and it seemed the bird was also happy. The princess kissed Kay on the cheek and asked him to be careful. Kay promised to return and become stronger. The princess said that she would wait for him. Dean couldn't help but notice this, and said that Kay already had a girlfriend. Kay replied that he could not lose to his father, who was able to win such a beautiful woman as his mother. I'm more interested in how Dean managed to win Cecile's heart. Mom asked them to be quieter. After all, someone here was not in a good mood. Father had been silent for a couple of days. Kay wondered why he should be upset. He had a murderous aura about him. Perhaps hatching a plan for revenge, his father told Joe to come back. Dean was afraid that his father was planning to harm the family with a heart of stone. Cecile reminded them that there was a blood pact between their families, and they could not kill each other. Even if they are not on the kingdom's territory, they will know about everything. The father stated that this does not apply to mistresses or illegitimate offspring. Those people wanted to get rid of his grandson if they didn't answer them. Then their family will not be able to gain respect and take its rightful place in society. The king himself was not against such reprisals. It seems the king seems useless. His role in society does not play an important role. He himself hated this high priest. He was even grateful to the little rascal for this, and hoped that Kay would continue to interfere with the high priest. Kay picked up Lei and told him not to be afraid. It looked like he was trying a new trick. He used just a little bit of magic and was able to create a soul fusion. Once their souls connected, Kay sent Lei flying forward. Father asked what Kay had just done. Kay replied, "A little experiment." It turns out that Kay is already studying alchemy. Becoming an alchemist is not at all easy. But, as we can see, Kay is already doing quite well. Kay turned on the broadcast with the help of Lei. The crystal ball and Lei's eyes were connected by magic. Everything that Lei sees, the boys see too. Kay even learned how to make healing potions when he completed his introductory alchemy course. The old man couldn't stop rejoicing over his talented grandson, repeating that Kay was their family's treasure. Dean said it was all in Cecile's genes. When it came to magic and alchemy, no one could compare to the elves. In their family there is not only a wizard, but also a brilliant alchemist. Kay noticed the fire and shouted that the carriage had to be stopped. Something terrible was happening ahead. Cecile explained that battles between magical creatures are a common occurrence in the forests. But still, I decided to stay in a small town for the night and replenish supplies. Staying here is a good idea, but Mom was wrong. This is no small battle. Others don't feel it, but the air is literally filled with a murderous aura. Apparently, these monsters are terrifying creatures of the 9th level. And of course, our hero wanted to go and check it out for himself. Feeling a bit of a thrill, Kay decided to sneak away quietly at night. Of course, he cast a sleeping spell on his mother just in case. The spell would last until dawn. By this time, Kay would be able to return. The battle site was easy to find. 2 huge beasts, a 9-headed Hydra Master of the Swamp, 9th rank, and the Bear Cub, the earthly god of war, is also of the 9th rank. Kay was impressed that there were 2 9-rank creatures in front of him. Before this, he could only read about them. The kid wanted to take advantage of their weakened state, but the power of these creatures is incredible. Even if they were on the brink of death, Kay wouldn't be able to win. Speaking of death, it looks like the little bear is losing, although he could have strengthened his armor. It seems that the bear cub is too young and does not know about this ability. Kay managed to get into the bear's head and offer help, but the bear was not flattered. But Kay said confidently that a couple more bites and the bear would be finished. Kay promised to share some advice. Of course, if the bear became his familiar, but the bear resisted. Right up until the moment the snake bit him again, and our little one was already bored. Kay told the bear to decide quickly, otherwise he didn't have much time left, so the bear threw the snake aside. And after catching his breath, he asked if the child would really help him. Kay replied, "Of course, but the bear must repent, because he can't just trust like that." Then the bear swore on his name that he would become the child's familiar and follow him. If he helps him destroy this damn Hydra, Kay created the seal. And when he finished, he told the bear to call him Master from now on. The Hydra got quite angry and rushed to attack again. Mishka told Kay that he better keep his promise. Otherwise he will eat it, even if it is the last thing he does. But Kay had no doubts about his knowledge. He told Clubfoot to use the roar of the King of Beasts to finish off the snake. Hydra won't die unless all of its heads are destroyed. Kay healed the bear's wounds. Finally, the bear's mana became more powerful, and he was able to create armor. Combine this with the roar of the King of Beasts, and now the snake will be in trouble. Mishka fried every head of the Hydra with his roar. And then he asked Kay what he gave him. Kay replied that it was a simple strengthening potion. Kay scolded the stupid Clubfoot for calling him a boy. Then the bear said that he would serve his master faithfully and truly all his life. Kay called the bear stupid again, and then he objected that he actually had a name. After some arguing, Kay declared that he would call the bear Pippi, and then it dawned on Kay that with a bear this size, it would be difficult to take him with him. But the solution to the problem was quickly found. Pippi himself shrank. Then Kay took the bear in his arms. He had to hurry. It would soon be dawn and Mom would wake up. But the little flower can't support both of them. Kay scolded that the Clubfoot was heavy, and the bear scolded that Mana Kay was too weak. It was then decided that the bear would return to its previous size and carry Kay. And once he gets out of the forest, he will become a baby again so as not to scare people. But before leaving, Kay noticed the slug's core. Mishka explained that with his help, the power of mana would increase, and since Kay was his master, it was up to him to decide what to do with him. The crystal would be useful in alchemy, but unfortunately it is large and noticeable. Kay had to leave him behind while chaos reigned at home. Mom had woken up a long time ago and was looking for Kay all over the house. While Dean was calming his wife down, the culprit of this chaos arrived. The parents immediately breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that their child was okay. For some reason, Dean decided that the animal in Kay's hands was a dog. Kay made up a story about hearing a roar and running to help. And since the poor thing was lost, they made a deal. Kay asked if he could keep the bear. Cecile said that he could keep the teddy bear, but he couldn't run away at night. Dean noticed that his wife was feeling unwell, so he asked why they didn't stay there another day. They would just buy everything they needed for the trip. Cecile didn't mind. Kay said he hadn't seen a single cart with anything like that, so they were probably all using local resources. Cecile asked how so many people could rely solely on mountain vegetation. This is an elven spatial ring, with enough space inside to hide a small town. It's a pity that Kay didn't have that ring in the forest. The problem with the core would have been solved. Moreover, in the lairs of such creatures, a whole fortune is usually hidden. Kay already imagined a rich future. Then Kay casually asked if anyone found treasure outside the city. He could just take it. Cecile replied. Of course, what is this for? Kay replied. Lei found the corpse of a hydra. It could be useful. They almost ran into 2 monsters yesterday. The hydra must have lost. Kay asked if he could take her for himself, if his mother would help. Cecile admitted that the find was truly incredible, and she understood why Kay wanted to take it. The hydra's corpse is pretty massive, so it needs its ring, right? If she gives half, she's in, and Mom's no slouch, Kay said. He found the corpse of the hydra. Cecile asked who forced him to ask her for help. She gathered a whole army, and declared that they would travel light. Who would have thought that Mom would be so mercantile? Cecile asked if he was still angry, and why the baby needed such riches. Kay stated that he wanted to become an outstanding alchemist. Cecile replied that in that case, half would be more than enough. Moreover, their family and elven clan will always support him. Then Kay calmed down and said that he would choose first. The size of the hydra was truly astonishing. Cecile ordered the first group to skin the beast, and the second to search the area and find the hydra's lair. The elf said that the hydra's lair would likely be skillfully hidden, and the search could take months. This is true, but Cecile is not ready to give up the treasure. Then Kay asked to give it to him. Pippi said that he knew where her lair was. The elf asked if this dog really knew where to go. It seemed like everyone here wasn't very bright. After all, how can you confuse a dog with a bear Pippi has transformed? And he began to lead the squad to the lair. They quickly found the lair. As expected, the hydra's lair was filled with all sorts of treasures. Kay came down and ran to choose his treasures. Pippi asked if Kay was going to look around. Kay replied that he was looking for something special. I had barely entered the cave when I already felt this powerful aura of treasure. Pippi was impressed by the shield, but that wasn't what caught Kay's attention. And this ring, it emits an aura identical to my mother's ring. This is also a spatial treasure, and in this ring there was a sword and a book. The owner of the Greendale Diary, Kay, immediately noticed the book. Mom told me that Dale is the greatest alchemist in all of humanity. This sword is the embodiment of power, grace, and speed. Kay has found a true treasure. But Kay believed that this diary was a treasure, and with its help, he would become an alchemist faster. Now Kay doesn't have to worry about a lack of good books on alchemy. Cecile collected the treasures and told the squad, after everything was ready, to inform the whole squad that they were returning. She thought that the Empress would be pleased with the gifts, Kay asked. So Mom wants to give everything to Grandma. Cecile replied, it is for the Empress of the embodied elementals. Elemental elves are much more powerful than normal elves. Maybe she can help Kay. That is, Mom did everything for him from the very beginning. And Kay thought that it was for selfish reasons. Then he promised that the seal would soon be broken. For his mother's sake and his own, he decided to sort this out as soon as possible. A couple of days later, they arrived and the elves came out to greet the princess. Kay admired the beauty of the city, but his grandfather and Dean were not with them. They had urgent business in the kingdom, so they returned. The Empress made a spectacular appearance before her daughter and grandson. Mother and daughter were very happy to see each other after so many years. Cecile told Kay to say hello to his grandmother. Kay rightly noted that she looks more like her sister Cecile than her grandmother. The Empress said that she really was his grandmother and began to cuddle the baby. She got a little carried away, so Cecile asked her mother to calm down. When everyone had calmed down, they entered the palace, where the Empress examined Kay's seal. And she was very angry at the high priest for daring to do this to her grandson. She demanded an explanation and warned that his old man would be messing with her, and she would deal with him personally. Although the Empress was trying her best to restrain herself, her murderous aura could still be felt. The Empress promised to do everything possible to help Kay. In the worst-case scenario, she'll still be able to teach Kay everything she knows about alchemy. Kay said that he felt her magic and could not imagine that there was anyone more powerful than her. The Empress explained that she could use the magic of the 12th, while the Empress of the Elementals could use the magic of the 15th. Kay didn't expect this. He thought that the 12th level was the ceiling. The Empress explained that elemental elves, like dragons, are not classified as humans. To the gods, Cecile told Kay to rest while they went about their business. Everyone left and Kay exhaled. Pippi asked if Kay was upset. Kay was upset that the seal was strong, and that he thought the 12th level was the end point. Pippi said that Kay was a fool for thinking that way. Almost all dragons use 12th level magic. Kay said he had never seen dragons before, and since the stupid clubfoot spent the whole day tumbling around in the swamp, he couldn't see them either. Pippi shouted that among his friends there were dragons. One of them lived nearby. Upon learning of this, Kay could not hide his delight and asked to be taken to the dragon. Pippi said sadly that it was impossible. He certainly left a magical trace. But they had an agreement that the next time they met, he will be strong enough to use the spatial gate. But he still hadn't mastered this skill, so Kay offered to help. He developed a spiritual pill to increase the power of the earth. Pippi could feel the primordial magic of the earth flowing through him. He was glad that he followed Kay. One pill was enough for Pippi to open the gate. Using the portal, the guys moved. It seems that Kay will not be able to rest. Seeing the area, Kay shouted, Pippi doesn't want to kill him and thereby break the contract. Pippi shouted back, don't blame him, he was talking about the snowy mountains. Christina lives in that cave. Like Pippi, she is still a child. She lives here to improve her abilities. Pippi shouted that he had come to visit Christina. Chris asked why her friend looked like that and who the child was, if it was a snack. Pippi explained that Kay couldn't be eaten. They had a contract, and said that thanks to Kay, he was able to open the portal. Kay introduced himself and said he was pleased to meet her. And he himself thought that she was of incredible size, but Pippi said that she was a child. Chris said that since Kay is such a good friend to Pippi, then Kay is now her friend too. But she warned him not to touch her treasures. Kay agreed. Chris asked the purpose of their visit, and Pippi explained that Kay was curious about what dragons looked like. He asked Chris to tell him about Dragon Island. Chris said that she hadn't been there for a long time. There are about 2,000 people like her living there, but dragons have a strict hierarchy. Since she lost her parents and her home, she had to move to this cold place. Chris asked if Kay could help her as well as Pippi, and promised to reward her generously. Kay tensed up and said he just wanted to ask about her abilities. Chris replied water. Her element is water. Kay seemed to have something to do with water. Here is a water energy pill. He only has one, but it can help. It was good that he had this pill, because Kay was worried that he wouldn't be able to establish relationships with the dragons. After drinking the pill, Chris felt its purest water energy. As a token of gratitude, she gave Kay her scale. She cast a teleportation spell in case Kay was in danger. He could crush her, and Chris would come to the rescue. Kay was very grateful to her. The boys returned, happily discussing what had happened, and Kay hoped that he would someday see the Island of Dragons in person. Suddenly the door swung open and Pippi quickly removed the portal. The Empress brought bad news. It seems that even the Elemental is unable to remove the seal. She said he would have to deal with this seal himself. But she promised that as soon as he grew up, she would allow him to sign a contract with one of the elements. Kay said his father always said that a man should deal with his own problems. The Empress also learned of Kay's intention to become an alchemist. So from today on, she will teach him elven alchemy. If he can't become a wizard, she will make him become a powerful alchemist. This is the Alchemist's Hall of the Imperial Elven family. Kay is ready to memorize all these books. But Kay isn't going to forget about Dale's diary either. Suddenly, Kay noticed something incredible and asked what it was. This is something that their clan has been trying to figure out for centuries. This is the lost weapon of the elven god, and there has been no trace of it for hundreds of years. The reward is the loyalty of 10,000 elven warriors. Kay was excited about this, and asked if he could create a similar wand and receive a reward. Yes, but to do this, Kay needs to master the 5 elements, which is almost impossible. But Kay was confident in his abilities and knowledge. The goal is set if Kay wants to become the strongest alchemist. He must surpass the blessing of the god of sorcery. 3 years later, our Kay has grown noticeably. The friendship with Pippi was still strong, and Kay's abilities in alchemy increased. Now he could create weapons. And this weapon was first class. It could release 2 elements at once. The elves couldn't stop admiring Kay's alchemy skills. But Kay was dissatisfied. He thought that this was not enough. Thanks to the skills from the past life, upgrading weapons is easy. Magic is more difficult for him, and without it he will not be able to control the 3 elements. Suddenly the elf remembered and shouted that the Empress was looking for Kay. Then Kay hurried, because Grandma is not a patient person. But his attention was drawn to the same scroll. Nothing had ever made him feel so helpless. Kay was already beginning to doubt the existence of this weapon. The Empress assured that it existed. Kay stated that when he completed his training, he would create an even more outstanding weapon. The grandmother had no doubts about her grandson, in fact. Kay would soon leave the city. After all, Kay needs to continue to improve his skills. He grew up and can go to the school of witchcraft. She can't hold him back. The old man continues to whine that he misses his grandson. The elf clan blesses Kay. She looks forward to that day, when he can break the seal and become a great alchemist. 3 years later, Kay returns to the Storm Kingdom. And although he misses his dad, grandfather, and aunt, there is someone with whom Kay wants to deal. At this time, on the training ground, the prince was fighting with a wolf. The old man told him not to mess around, but to kill him quickly. But the wolf escaped from the chains and the old man killed the wolf himself. Then he began to scold the prince and compare him to Kay. Despite his failures, the prince still believed that he was stronger than Kay. He said that he could tear Kay to shreds. The old man said that Kay was returning, and he advised killing Kay before he reached the city. The self-confident, or rather stupid prince decided to do just that. Kay was already close. They would enter the city tomorrow. The friends were arguing when suddenly Kay heard screams. 2 assholes tried to take a child's money. But the little girl wasn't going to just give away the money. Kay was able to recognize Erica, despite the fact that she had changed in appearance. They met again. Kay shamed the assholes. But they weren't scared and told Kay to fuck off. Then Kay offered to pay instead of the girl. The guy said that this girl owes them 100 gold coins. Erica shouted, "You cheater, she only took 3 gold coins from them." But the guy said that the percentages had accumulated, that's all. There are many such disgusting people in this world. However, Kay is not so easily fooled either. Kay said, "No problem," he threw the bag of money. But not to those guys, but to his friend Pippi. Then the guys shouted that they didn't need money. Then Kay told the girl that they would not bother her anymore. She borrowed money from them because her mother was seriously ill, and she didn't know that everything would turn out like this. The girl said her name and asked Kay's name. Kay thought she was Erica's reincarnation, but it seems he was wrong. Kay said his name, and he said that he had a doctor who could help Stella's mother. But suddenly a strange little dog appeared and snatched Stella's money. And he soared into the sky. Kay decided that he was serving those 2 shady guys. Kay said that he would return them, and Stella should go to his mother. And he will tell Pippi about what happened and protect her. But the monster belonged to the prince. It was a trap. They decided to lure him into the gorge, where a whole army was waiting for Kay. But the prince boasted that he would deal with Kay himself. The knight reported that Kay was already approaching. The prince wanted to make it look like Kay had been attacked by bandits. He brought knights to defeat Kay alone. And he still thought he was the cool one here, which amused Kay. The knights declared that they were not knights, but simple bandits. Of course, Kay didn't believe this nonsense. The knights seriously decided to fight the child. Kay realized that since they sent 4th-level mages, it meant that their master was afraid of him. And he is stupid, because a magician and an alchemist are not afraid of such knights. Since his mother was waiting for him, Kay decided to deal with them quickly. He created a 5th-level alchemical artifact. Ice cubes flew from a portal in the sky towards the knights. But that was not all. From the other side, a fiery dragon was flying towards them. They shouldn't have underestimated Kay. That's what their arrogance led to. The 5th one, meanwhile, hid while his knights were killed. And Kay did all this with a seal, one can guess. As strong as he is without her, it seems Kay has found the initiator of this performance. He unleashed the wrath of thunder upon the 5th prince. But when he ran up afterwards, Kay saw only a bag of money. Kay decided to check if everything was in place. Inside, Kay found a token from the Gaddafi family, which had the same origins as his family. It doesn't look like it's fake, but Kay doesn't feel the magic. There might be a monster sealed inside it. Better to find out for sure. Advanced magic is required to awaken the token. Kay concentrated and used his power from his past life, so he was able to move inside the token. The fire element is incredibly powerful. So much so that Kay is sure that the beast is still out there, and that it is at least level 9. That's right, the spirit beast of the Gaddafi family, the 9th level phoenix. It's better for Kay to leave. He's already a grown phoenix. There's no point in angering him. But it seems he was distracted by something. And here's the reason. It was that very same elven magic wand. Now it's clear why no one could find her for so many years. It is not worth contacting the phoenix now. Hundreds of years of imprisonment have angered it. But Kay couldn't leave empty-handed. He distracted the phoenix so he could fly up and take the wand. Having collected his mana, Kay managed to pull her out of the rock. Kay told the phoenix that he was leaving, but it was not goodbye. They would meet soon. He easily got out of the token with an incredible trophy. The phoenix was so angry that he even set the token on fire. But for now it is better for him to stay there. And here is the weapon of sorcery. Our hero came into this world by pure chance, and almost immediately found something that no one could find for 100 years. Unfortunately, he is not a magician, but an alchemist. But discovering this is incredible luck. Suddenly he heard his mother's voice. Then Kay jumped out of the hole. Mom asked Kay to be more careful. He scared her. She asked if Kay knew who sent these scoundrels. She would make them pay for it. But what's the point? In the end, they got the full punishment, not Kay. More importantly, he found the wand of sorcery and showed it to his mother. Naturally, Cecile was surprised and wanted to know how he found her. Kay replied that it was all thanks to Stella and asked where she was. Unfortunately, Cecile had bad news. Stella is very ill now. Kay promised to help her, so Cecile followed her to cure her mother. But they were too late. She was already dead. Cecile helped the little girl bury her mother. She was hysterical from the loss of her mother. Stella reminded him of Erica. He couldn't leave her. He decided that he had to take care of her, so he asked to keep Stella as her little sister. Cecile really liked this idea. She always dreamed of her own little princess, but it was forbidden to include her in the family tree. Then Kay said that Stella's family had the same origin as theirs. From now on, Kay will not allow anyone to offend her. This was our hero's promise. Kay asked his mother to take Stella to the kingdom, and he returned to his grandmother. As soon as he receives the promised reward, he will return immediately. Cecile immediately began to worry. But Kay said that he would quickly get there with the artifact, and he was not alone. Running out of the carriage, Kay called Pippi, who came running immediately. He decided to find a quiet place and open a portal to the Elven Valley. Pippi asked for a pill, because creating a portal is an energy-consuming task. Kay promised that he would give him at least 500 pills after he received the reward. In the forest, the Empress cried bitterly because she missed her grandson. But he had only recently left, and the elves could not understand her feelings. The Empress was sad that her precious grandson left at the first opportunity. How could she not be sad? Suddenly, a portal appeared in the floor. The elves wanted to arm themselves, when suddenly a bear jumped out of the portal. Seeing Kay, the grandmother was delighted and waved the teddy bear away with one hand. Through the tight embrace, Kay tried to say that he had found the wand of sorcery. Kay took it out of the ring. Of course, the Empress was interested in how he found it, and Kay replied that it was just luck, but he could still claim the reward, right? The Elemental Empress will be happy, replied the grandmother. It is from her that Kay will receive the reward they move together. This is elemental territory. You have to be careful, warned the grandmother. It may look like ordinary fog, but it is actually magical energy. But the strength of these creatures is waning. What would the forest look like if they were in their prime? Suddenly, Kay heard cries for help again, but his grandmother heard nothing. But Kay was confident and said that someone needed help. Grandma asked if maybe he was just imagining things, that she couldn't hear anything. Kay definitely heard something and ran towards the voice, asking his grandmother to wait here. Kay no longer listened to his grandmother's cries of danger. He was already far away. The sound was very faint, and only thanks to Kay's hypersensitivity was he able to hear it. However, when he ran, he saw no one, only a huge tree. It turned out that a fairy was in trouble, so Kay didn't notice her right away. Kay asked how the little one got there when he helped her. Meanwhile, Grandma continued to search for Kay in the forest. Suddenly she heard the fairies talking about the invader, and she immediately understood who they were talking about. The little girl complained that the honey was just awful. She thought she was going to die. Kay laughed and said, "It's pine resin, not honey, silly." Will had never seen honey before, so she thought it was honey. Kay explained that it is not only honey that has this color. Has she tried honey? Will admitted that she had never tried it and expressed how much she wanted to try honey. Then Kay took out a candy and said that his mother gave it to him. After this, she won't put everything she comes across in her mouth. The little one was delighted. Kay didn't feel sorry, so he shared it with her. Suddenly, Will's face changed dramatically and she shouted, "Guard!" Kay was attacked in an instant, but he pulled out his shield in time. The guards screamed that an intruder had attacked their princess. Despite their size, they were incredibly strong. Kay could barely hold up his shield. Kay tried to explain that he hadn't attacked anyone, but they didn't believe him. Then he stated that they were forcing him to do this. Kay called upon 8th level magic. Will tried to explain to the guards that everything was not as it seemed. But the guards didn't listen to her right away. It seemed Kay had met another princess. Grandma finally found Kay, but the situation was already settled. Kay shared some honey with the little ones, and they ate the candies with gusto. They would like to enjoy honey every day, but they don't see people often. Then Will found a solution. She needed to go to the human world, and Grandma scolded Kay because he scared her half to death. Kay explained that it was dangerous at first, but luckily Will calmed them down. Grandmother asked why the princess was here. The Empress knew about it. Will said quite happily that she is free as the wind, but her mother is strict with her older sister. Grandmother asked Kay not to run away anymore and suggested going to the Empress. Now Kay understood how strong these elementals were. Even the 8th level was nothing to them. They came to the palace, greeted the Empress, and gave her a wand of magic. The Empress said that the elves were saved. She thanked Kay on behalf of all the elves. Kay, without raising his head, said that it was a great honor for him to be able to help. In an instant, the Empress appeared in front of Kay and used magic. In accordance with the conditions she put forward, 10,000 elves will be loyal to him. For 10 years, Kay had one request. He wanted to make a contract with one of the elves, and was it possible to do this now? The Empress answered, of course, but before that, a ceremony must be held. Will flew up to Kay and whispered that he could make a contract with her. Kay quickly figured out that she just wanted to get into their world to eat sweets. They all came out to perform the ceremony. The Empress threw her robe aside. Kai was struck by the beauty of the Empress, and she called upon the powers of the wand. Having asked her to bless them and grant them comfort, the wand soared upward, and thus new elves appeared. The moon well was filled again. The Empress was happy. Grandmother was also glad that after so many years, the elf population had been restored. But Kay had no idea that all this was done to increase the birth rate. It was time to choose an elf to sign a contract with, and she offered 3 of the strongest to choose from. The Empress was not lying. The waves emanating from them are quite powerful. She advised Kay to choose with his heart. Then Kay asked, "What to do if it doesn't respond now?" The Empress replied, "Any elf will be happy to sign a contract." Will kept hinting to Kay to choose her. Then Kay said that he chose her. Grandma tried to dissuade Kay because Will was a princess, Kay replied. The Empress herself said to choose whoever she wanted. The Empress asked what Will thought. Will really wanted to go to the human world. Kay saved the world of the elves, gave them a better future, the Empress thought. Still, she was a mother and worried about her child. So she asked if Kay would be able to take care of Will. Kay promised to protect her with his life, since they both passionately desired it. The Empress decided to make an exception and took Will's blood and gave it to Kay. The elf princess and Kay of the Dragonblood family are bound by a contract. The power of the elementals was incredible. The contract was made. Having finished their business, Kay and Granny returned to the elf forest. Kay asked if Will really didn't mind going to the human world, since she wouldn't be able to become the heir. Will replied that he had an older sister for that purpose, and that she was not opposed to her little sister inheriting the throne. She prefers candy, even though no one ever said a word about it. But everyone blamed her for the Moonwell sensation being there was torture. Now it is clear why she was so eager to leave, especially as soon as the time came to inherit the throne. There would have been bloodshed. Grandma understands that too. Will stated that she can do everything that her mother can do, and can even neutralize an enemy's magic. From that day on, his safety was in her hands. Will was very serious. What amused Kay was that suddenly the elf ran up to them and said, "Her Majesty the Princess sent a scroll asking for Mr. K to return as soon as possible." Kay completely forgot about the reception. It seemed like a serious event. Grandma advised Kay to hurry, but hoped he would visit her. Kay was worried that something had happened, so he moved to the palace. It was lively here. It seems Kay was worried for nothing. The knights declared that uninvited people and those accompanied by dogs were not allowed to enter. Of course, Kay was unhappy. Besides, why are there guards here? This is their reception. Cecile ran up and said that it was her son. Then the knights apologized. But the dog was still not allowed in. Kay asked why the royal family was here. Cecile explained that it was all the Stoneheart family. They had contacted the Magic Academy, and today they announced that from now on, the Alchemy Academy will have no connection with the Magic Academy. What does this mean? Kay must pass a test in order to enter the Magic Academy. To successfully pass the test, at least 4th level magic is required. But because of this seal, his magic cannot cross this border. So the doors will only be open to the Alchemy Academy for him. Kay was very unhappy. He was more than capable of being an alchemy teacher himself. He came to study magic. Cecile regretted not being more careful. The stone heart had driven them into a corner. But Kay wasn't going to let them interfere with his plans. This is probably just the beginning. Who knows what other surprises this family has in store. Opening the doors, Kay entered the hall. The king joyfully greeted the young genius. Kay thanked for the hospitality while the king praised Kay. And he said that Kay would conquer everyone at the Alchemy Academy. Kay interrupted him and said that he wanted to enter the Magic Academy. The old man stated that Kay's magic was sealed, and that he needed to be level 4 to enter. Kay pointed out the old man's arrogance, and claimed that he possessed more advanced magic. The old man said that it was all a lie, so Kay offered to check it out for himself. Then the old man proposed the prince as an opponent, and pointed out that Kay should not even think of using any alchemical tricks. Kay calmly accepted the conditions and asked to prepare the arena. The prince declared that he would defeat Kay, so he would run to his mother, and Kay casually asked how the prince's wound was. He should be more careful in the arena. The prince understood this hint. The duel to determine whether Kay is worthy of becoming a student at the Magic Academy begins. The prince believed that now Kay would not take him by surprise, because he had a barrier. Kay asked, and the prince admitted that he had set those soldiers on him outside the city. The prince stated that Kay could find out about this in the next life and attacked. Kay dodged, but the prince attacked again, screaming at the top of his lungs that without the scrolls, Kay was an insignificant insect. An old man in the crowd was glad that this ice could seriously injure Kay. It seemed Prince Kay's obsession only grew with each passing year. He was too happy. Kay said that these childish games would not harm him in any way. The prince still has a lot to learn, and Kay is ready to teach him a lesson. Using 5th level magic, he threw the prince back. The old man couldn't believe it. He decided that Kay had broken the seal. The prince screamed at Kay to attack him, but Kay is not stupid. He knew that if he attacked, the shield would push him back. Kay asked Will to share the sealing magic with him. Will warned that the effect would last 5 minutes. This was enough for Kay, so Will shared her power with Kay. The prince created an ice dance. Kay stopped the ice flows with Will's shield. The crowd was amazed that Kay blocked 4th level magic. Now they believed that their strength was equal, and perhaps Kay was even stronger. Cecile asked if Kay had passed the test since he was able to stop a level 4 attack. But the evil old man said that it didn't mean anything. He thought it was just a coincidence, and the prince also didn't understand how Kay blocked the attack. Kay stated that he had not wasted time and had studied alchemy, and that the prince had better surrender. He should hurry. Will's magic will soon end. Of course, the prince had no intention of giving up so quickly. He attacked Kay, who was defending himself with Will's shield. Kay needed to come up with something, and quickly, before the magic wore off, and the prince prepared the next attack. This is exactly what Kay was waiting for. The prince's ice swords melted. Kay ran up to the prince. It was Kay's turn to attack. The prince didn't understand why he couldn't use his magic properly. Kay gave him the answer. He is able to contain the prince's magic. It's time to show him your true power, Kay declared. Of course, it was all smoke and mirrors. Will's magic had taken away his magic, so even Kay's 3rd level magic will feel deadly. Of course, you can't kill the bastard, but it's worth teaching him a lesson. Therefore, he called upon the magic already known to the prince. The vines we are familiar with have appeared, but not only them. Kay summoned some strange creature that grabbed the prince. The carnivorous creature swallowed the prince. The king became worried about his little brat, and the old man was already ready to arrest Kay. Then Kay reminded him that this is an arena. There can only be one winner. Technically, the test should have ended when he blocked the prince's attack, but the old man himself decided to continue. Then the old man said, "Let Kay be worthy of a place in the academy. It doesn't matter anymore. He's facing execution," meaning the old man admitted that Kay passed the test. Then Kay told the flower to let the prince go. He was safe and sound. He just lost consciousness. The king ordered that he be taken to his chambers and that Kay be released. Kay reminded that his family was loyal to the crown and he would never dare harm the prince. And he asked, since the archbishop recognized his powers, whether he could enter the academy. The archbishop grumpily congratulated Kay on passing the test, and again he warned Kay not to rejoice prematurely. The prince continued to vomit in his room. The princess called Kay a barbarian for what he did to her son. She asked if Kay had gone too far. I was completely confused with their family tree. It was no longer clear who was related to whom. The aunt did not tolerate threats against her nephew. She reminded them that it was their family that started all this. And Kay did not harm the prince. The king tried to calm the quarrel before it escalated. He said that with such talent, Kay would achieve success, and it will undoubtedly bring glory to their family. The old man could not say anything. The princess asked her brother if they were really going to leave everything like this. The archbishop said no way, he would personally deal with Kay. He also told the 5th one to study harder. The 5th one said that Kay is strong and that his family protects him. You can't get close to him. The 5th one would have died in that gorge if it weren't for the knight. Then the old man took out a scroll and said, in that case, they will leave him all alone. Let him send this to the dwarves, and he will ask them for the death of the dragon, and he will deal with Kay. The territory of the academy is under its jurisdiction. The professor was explaining the topic when she noticed that Kay was sleeping. She called him several times, but it didn't work. So she shouted his name. Kay jumped up, thinking that the monsters had attacked. The professor began to scold Kay for sleeping and told him to answer the question. Kay tried to remember something in a panic, but in vain. Suddenly, someone suggested the answer to him, and Kay read everything. The lessons are over. Another carefree day has come to an end. Kay thanked Stella for the hint, and she asked him not to sleep in class. Then Kay explained that he had already experienced all this in the Valley of the Elves, and he promised that she would soon be able to enroll here herself. Suddenly he noticed the archbishop, who was hurrying somewhere. Stella said that something unusual was found outside the city. The archbishop's seal was broken and he ran to fix it, Kay thought. If something breaks the archbishop's seal, it can be useful. Then he said that it was time for him to go and quickly ran away. But Stella began to beg Pippi to go after her brother. The knights said that the archbishop had strengthened the seal, and they had to be careful. There was powerful sealing magic, but something was wrong. Kay didn't feel any vibrations from the ground, which means there is no treasure in it. It felt like the whole thing was a setup. But since he was here, Kay decided to take a walk. Kay froze. He saw a huge dragon and a sword in his forehead. Northern blade of the 9th level, very rare. Kay couldn't pass by such a treasure. It would be quite difficult to find such a thing even in the realm of immortals. An ordinary person cannot control such an artifact. How then could the archbishop seal it? Kay realized that something was wrong, but then he was noticed. He tried to lie that he was there by accident, but it didn't work. Too late, Kay realized that the Archbishop had set it all up. A crowd of knights attacked Kay, as did the magicians. The prince asked why they were sending 6th-level mages to deal with the scum. The old man explained that if they killed him, they would be finished. But now Kay was an intruder. So the blame for Kay's murder can be shifted onto the mages and knights. Thinking that Kay was finished, the scoundrels left. Kay had to fight with knights and magicians. He was constantly attacked by magicians. It looks like Kay will have to use all his skills to defend himself. He grabbed the knights with vines and shot lightning at them. Then the magician said that the Archbishop was right. The child relies on the scrolls. They were serious about killing Kay, so they didn't hold back. Kay was thrown back despite his shield, but another attack was already flying towards him. Knights and mages, lining up their attacks in such a way that Kay has no time to rest. The scoundrels were well prepared this time, but a surprise still awaited them. They hardly expected that the bear would come to Kay's aid. Mishka grew bigger and threw Stella towards Kay. Kay caught her and asked what she was doing there. Stella replied if they hadn't come, he would have been in trouble, but Kay began to scold Stella for disobeying. And he said that punishment awaited her, but Stella noticed the arrow and protected her brother. Meanwhile, Pippi was caught in chains by the magicians and could not help Kay. Kay got seriously angry at these scoundrels and attacked them. In anger, he shouted why they kept trying to take away his loved ones. He will make them answer for this. Kay was able to pull the sword out of the dragon's skull. The massacre began. Kay began to get rid of each knight. The mages panicked when they realized that Kay had pulled out his sword, and since he can use it, it's time for them to run away. But Kay said he wouldn't let anyone leave here. They are all murderers. Kay ran forward in anger, waving his sword. Suddenly, his hands began to shake convulsively and the sword fell out. Kay had only used the sword for a short time, and his strength was already running out. It was all because of that damn seal that Kay noticed Stella's spirit was dissipating. If he doesn't stop the process, he won't be able to save her. Kay immediately ran to his little sister and tried to help her. Pippi managed to get out and shouted for Kay and Stella to climb on him. He would pull them out. But Kay was worried that she wouldn't survive the trip in her current condition. Kay asked Pippi to go back and tell her parents about the attack. Pippi said that he would return quickly and ordered not to die. The magicians immediately flew in and laughed at the fact that Kay had let his beast go. In this state, he wouldn't be able to fight them, but Kay had an ace up his sleeve. Pippi isn't the only one who can help Kay in difficult times. He threw the scales up and asked the dragon to come to him. Our friend heard a familiar voice from her cave, but the magicians thought it was a simple trick and laughed. The fool laughed so loudly that he didn't even notice Chris flying in. His comrades shouted at him to turn around and then the fool swallowed his tongue. Kay asked Tina to help him deal with them. They injured his little sister. The magicians did not expect to meet a real dragon. They ran away in panic. They couldn't run far. Tina tore each of them into pieces. Then she told Kay that everything was done. And then she asked, "His little sister died," Kay replied. "He sealed her soul in her body. But he can't help her." Kay asked if Tina knew anyone. Maybe Tina knows someone who could bring her back to life. Tina replied that only the dragon herb of immortality would help here. Many years ago, one man used it, and not only did his life return, but he also became the first person who could use 13th level magic. This upset the balance of power in the world, so the dragons decided to no longer give this plant. Kay declared that he would do anything for his sister, no matter what it cost him. Tina explained that they needed to help their clan find the Dragon Emperor, which has been missing for a long time. This is the only way to get the herb. But no one has seen him for 1,000 years, and yet he is tens of times larger than ordinary dragons. It was then that Kay remembered about the huge dragon and asked if it was him. Tina realized that she was standing on the Emperor's skull. Now it was clear why they couldn't find him. After all, the dwarves had hidden it here so diligently. Kay took out the ring. He placed the Emperor's skeleton inside it and asked Tina to take them to the dragons. Suddenly they heard sounds and the smell of blood. This is reinforcement from the Archbishop on one side, and on the other hand, the family and knights of Kay. A real war broke out between the two families. Stoneheart dared to encroach on their Kay's life. It was time to show them who they were dealing with, but Dean asked, "The knights are part of the Imperial organization. Should they use such drastic methods?" But the grandfather said that he didn't care. Anyone who dared to touch his grandson would be destroyed. Pippi broke the barrier and Dean ran to help his son. The old man shouted, "How dare they kill the king's knights? They are trying to declare war on the king himself." But the grandfather was fed up with the Archbishop's delirium. He was not going to hold back this time and attacked the old man. He flew back and hit a tree, and the grandfather got off his horse. And he said he would erase the Archbishop's smug face. His words will in no way shake his family's loyalty to the king. The old man asked his grandfather if he could be as brave in front of the king. Grandfather replied that if even one hair fell from Kay's head, he would bury their family alive. Meanwhile, Kay, Stella, and Tina were flying to the Island of Dragons. When they were close, Tina asked Kay to be more polite. Kay is ready to do anything to save his sister. He will definitely listen. As soon as they landed, a dragon attacked them. Tina responded in kind. The dragon said that he saw 2 bugs on Tina. He would catch them for her. Tina replied that these were her friends, and that she would not let anyone harm them, the dragon declared. If Tina defeats him, he will let her through. But then someone shouted to the vizier. To let Christina in right now, the vizier clicked his tongue and let them in. Kay was terrified by the power of the dragons. His soul trembled before their might. Sky was the one who stopped the vizier, he greeted Kay. He is an elder of the dragon clan. He already learned from Christina that Kay found the remains of the emperor. Kay replied that he had indeed found the emperor and was ready to return them. But he had a request. He would like to get the herb of immortality. The dragons froze. Sky screamed. The boy was either too brave or too stupid. He got angry and attacked Kay, calling him a greedy man. Tina asked Kay to take back his words. Otherwise he would simply burst into tears. But Kay doesn't intend to back down. He needs this herb. He had to protect his sister. Suddenly Sky stopped. And he asked Kay if he was ready to sacrifice his life for this. He was so thirsty for the power of the herb. Kay explained that she was needed to save his sister. He is not interested in power. Sky likes people without selfish motives. He is ready to give Kai the herb, but first let him show the emperor. But Kay is a tough guy, and he said he wouldn't do it without getting the weed. Tina saw his skeleton with her own eyes, she can confirm. How can he trust Sky once he gets the herb and heals his sister? He'll give the skeleton right away, otherwise he'll destroy it. It looks like Kay ignored Tina's advice about politeness. Luckily, Sky acknowledged that Kay's threats were having an impact. He will bring the herb to save his sister if she dares to deceive him, or damage the bones. He will destroy their souls with his own hands. Enough time had passed. Kay was worried about his sister. But then he heard Stella's voice. She was alive. Kay was still worried and asked if she was in any pain. Stella replied that the grass worked wonders. It was as if she had been born again. Moreover, she feels an incredible surge of strength, as if her body is overflowing with mana. The little girl showed her brother her abilities. They were truly incredible. This is high-level magic. Kay has never seen circles like this. Even Sky was surprised. Stella not only took over the powers of the grass, but also inherited its wisdom. Very soon the world will see a new personality. Sky fulfilled his part of the agreement. It's time for Kay to do his thing. Kay said the skeleton is in his ring. Sky told Kay to follow him to the dragon's tomb. Kay asked Stella to wait for him here and ran ahead. In the cave, Sky took the form of a human. Kay did not know that dragons could do that. Sky created a circle and told Kay to take his hand, the magical pressure in the tomb. It's not something a person can handle if he goes in without it. Kay will die in an instant. Kay took Sky's hand and they jumped into the portal. It turned out that the tomb of the dragons is another dimension. The power emanating from these dragons is comparable to that of Sky. These must also be elders who have come here to honor the memory of the emperor. Just like Sky, they took on human form, and suddenly Kay noticed. Below, the grass of immortality bloomed, so this is the place where it grows. Sky asked Kay to get the emperor's skeleton. A huge skeleton emerged from Kay's small ring and fell down. Suddenly, all the dragons began to roar in chorus. It seemed that this is what dragons' grief sounds like. Kay could actually sense the overwhelming sorrow that filled them. On behalf of the dragon clan, Sky thanked Kay for returning the emperor to them. Now that his soul could find peace, Kay asked if he could take another flower. His magic was sealed. He thinks the herb will help him break it, Sky said. If Kay has something as valuable as the bones. But if he can get it himself, then it's possible. Kay rushed to the flower without any further thoughts. The dragons said that the greedy boy would die as soon as he entered the tomb's territory. Sky stood up for Kay. He let Kay try so he wouldn't let him die. The angry souls of the dead dragons surrounded Kay. He hoped to hold them back by using the right elements. This way he will gain some time and collect the flower. A fire dragon flew towards him. Then Kay surrounded himself with water. He created a water barrier, and other dragons cannot attack because of the fire barrier. Kay is smart, but he needs to hurry or those dragons will attack. He was able to take one flower and this angered the dragons. Things were bad. Luckily, Sky came to Kay's aid. Sky helped because he was curious about what Kay had just eaten. What allowed him to create such powerful magic, Kay replied, was his elixir. It temporarily allows him to strengthen his magic. But for other races, these elixirs have a permanent effect. The dragons' faces are all over the place. They want to get the elixir. Many of them are unable to develop further because they have reached their limits. Sky asked if Kay had any more elixirs. Kay decided to raise his price. He said he could exchange them for something valuable. Now the dragons were lining up to get the elixir from Kay. Poor Tina kept count and never-ending calculations. Finally she finished and went to Kay to complain. And Kay enjoyed the food and the company of the dragons. The dragons bully her because of her status. And in a couple of days the die-hard conservatives are under Kay's thumb. Kay thanked them for their hospitality and kindness. But it was time for them to go. Sky said he should thank Kay for bringing the Emperor back. Before his departure, he would like to present a gift from their clan, spatial ring as well as the horn of the white dragon. With it, Kay will be able to count on the help of dragons at any time. Its sound can scare away even a 9th rank monster. All the power of the white dragon is concentrated in this horn. He will wait until Kay is strong enough to unlock his full potential. And use the praise of light, it doubles the power, and best of all, you can self-heal. Only pure-hearted people can use the praise of light. Sky said he sees 2 valuable qualities in Kay: honesty and kindness. Once they've sorted things out, he'll ask Tina to take him back. He doesn't like saying goodbye, so she will do it, Kay thanked Sky. Kay received a lot of money and the respect of the elders. Tina was even jealous. But Kay said he left 2 bottles for her because she had done such a good job. Then Tina's mood immediately improved. Stella asked, "There is Storm City ahead. Is there a war there?" Kay stood up and saw everything for himself. It seemed that his family and the Stone Heart were still fighting. The king asked Dean to calm down and talk first. But Dean believed that the freaks killed Kay and Stella and should answer for it. Then everyone noticed that a dragon was flying towards them and ran away in panic. Tina shouted that she was Kay's friend and would not spare anyone who dared to go against his family. The knights and the king were terrified and immediately retreated. Dean ran and hugged his children. Kay asked what was going on, and Dean replied, they thought they were killed and were going to take revenge. The king said that Kay came just in time, otherwise Stormwind would have turned into a bloodbath. Kay said he didn't think it would come to this, but he and Stella were actually attacked. He was in a hurry to take Stella to the Dragon Island. The king demanded an explanation from the Archbishop. The Archbishop stated that none of this would have happened if Kay had not entered the barrier's range. Then he whispered that the king had better worry about Kay, who had the support of the elves and dragons. He hinted that the king could lose his position in the state. The coward declared that this was a terrible misunderstanding, and it was better to forget everything. Dean replied that he could not disobey the king's order and would withdraw the troops. However, they will not leave it like this. The king decided to smooth things over. And as compensation, he will give Kay the title of Baron and land. It seemed like he wanted to push Kay aside to keep his crown. Kay hesitantly agreed to accept the gift and thanked the king. The king then said that Kay was the only one who had received a title at that age. This false reward did not please Dean, but he reluctantly thanked the king. Seeing his dad's face, Kay regretted agreeing. At home, Cecile learned that Kay was going to the provinces, and of course, she was unhappy. Cecile immediately realized that the king was frightened by Kay's enlistment of the dragons. Stella didn't understand why her mother was angry that Kay had accepted the title. Kay explained that the problem was that he was being granted provincial lands. It's quite a large area, but it's teeming with magical creatures. It was then that Stella realized that the king wanted to send Kay away. Mom cried, because everyone who lived there returned crippled. Dean promised that they would tactfully refuse the gift, since Kay had to attend the academy. Then the angry grandfather appeared. He also blamed Dean for everything. Then Kay stopped his grandfather and said that it was his choice. The grandfather asked if the fool really didn't know what this place was. But Kay said that's exactly why he wants to go there. The academy turned out to be not the place he imagined. It was better to go to the lands and learn from his own experience. This is a good place for training. It has excellent protection, so there is no need to worry. The king wanted to send Kay to his death. But without knowing it, he gave Kay an incredible opportunity. There was no point in disappointing him. The king was sleeping in his bed, but he quickly woke up from the wind. Opening his eyes, he saw Tina. He was really scared. Kay said that it was him. There was no need to be afraid. Since Tina loves to fly at night, he will leave them pretty soon. And I decided to combine business with pleasure and introduce her to the city. The king panicked and asked if Kay was really going to leave her here. That's exactly what Kay was going to do. They had a contract, so he was obligated to take care of her. But since income in the provinces is meager, he decided to leave her here. Tina liked the king, so she will visit him often. In horror, the king decided to raise the finances of the province, but Kay continued to raise the bar. Life with the dragon scared the king to death, so he promised to send 200 carts with food. Kay got what he wanted. The plan worked. He thanked the king, and he wished me good night. He was leaving tomorrow. The king apparently did not realize that Kay had cleverly outwitted him. Kay asked Tina how she liked his skills. Tina was confused. She asked if Kay loved money, but didn't want to take away her treasures. Kay explained that he needed freedom. He didn't want others to decide for him and manipulate him. He came to the king to show him that he was not so easily intimidated. Tina said that since that was all, she would return to the mountain. Kay could visit her, because they would live close by. Kay thanked Tina for her help and promised to bring her the elixir. Now he needs to prepare for the journey. Kay woke up the young glutton who had climbed into the ring, claiming that she needs to recover, but she has been fine for a long time. Kay said that they were leaving tomorrow and everything needed to be prepared. Cecile came out and saw the skull of a 9-headed hydra as a means of transportation. Kay said hello, and Mom asked if Kay did it overnight. And Kay replied that it was better to go on a long journey with an army. This is the best he could do in a short time, Cecile asked. How could he do such a thing? Kay replied. It's all thanks to Will. Cecile was happy about how her son had grown up, but she was also sad about it. Kay said that he would always be her child, so Cecile asked for 2 units for herself. There was no point in arguing with her, so Kay gave in. She took 2 skulls. I'll have to make a few more. Stella said that they had a hard road ahead of them, and it looked like she was going with him too. Kay told Joe that a car didn't need a horse and asked why Stella was there. Apparently this was my mother's doing, so it's no surprise that she took the skull. The title granted by the king comes with the ownership of 2 horses. At the same time, the king is already afraid that his status will be undermined again. Problems are inevitable, and since Stella accepted the flower, it is dangerous for her to stay here. Kay swore to his parents that he would live up to their expectations and become the strongest in the world. The king was amazed at Kay's intelligence and asked if they would go and see him off. Grandfather said that he sent his man with him, so everything will be fine. The old man was angry that his grandfather stayed here, knowing that he and the king would set a trap for Kay. But the old man had already set a trap for Kay so that he would not reach the province alive. Kay said goodbye to everyone and went on a journey with the army. Snowy Gorge. Lay flew ahead, broadcasting the road to Kay. Stella asked why Kay kept looking at the ball. Kay replied that they had been pursued from Stormwind, but the man suddenly rushed ahead. Joe added that there were a lot of bandits in the gorge, but promised to protect them. Kay believed that there was no way to be sure. Their supplies were a tasty morsel. There are people willing to pay exorbitant sums for his head. But John will need help. Kay is going to lure out the bandit. It got dark, and John ordered to take care of the food supplies. The bandits were still following them. They knew what kind of family it was. They believed that the army could not be strong because it was controlled by a child. The creepy guy said he had conveyed the message, and now they were on their own. The leader told the kids it was time to act. They jumped off the cliff and shouted that they would take all the supplies. But when the leader attacked, the soldiers simply melted. They realized too late that it was a trap. Kay laughed at the fact that the bandits were just a bunch of kids. He just wasted his puppets, Kay ordered the soldiers. Taking everyone alive, the soldiers crawled out of the bushes and rushed forward. The leader believed that it didn't matter that they were caught. They hadn't lost yet. He decided to get rid of Kay first. Then everyone else would follow his orders, but it was not to be. Kay created a huge ball and threw it at the leader. As a result, they attacked him, and it was not easy to get out of the snow trap. Kay ordered to tell who sent him, otherwise he would be finished. The man said he was the leader of the gang and would not tell Kay anything. Then Kay said that he would trade him for information. In the morning, Kay prepared food for his soldiers. They were incredibly happy about this and kept thanking Kay. And the poor things were forced to watch them eat. The leader shouted that he did not want to listen to their complaints. They would not give up. And then Kay said, "It's cold here, but it's so warm near the fire. And this freshly cooked leg smells so delicious." Kay teased them cruelly and the kids quickly gave in. But the leader shouted at them to shut up. He didn't believe that Kay would leave them alive. Kay replied, "The wise one is the one who is observant. All who are ready to surrender can go to food." The kids betrayed their boss for a pot of food, and Kay continued to tease the leader with the leg of lamb. Finally, the leader gave in and crunched his leg contentedly. Joe shouted for the leader to tell everything now. So, let them stop chewing their food already. The leader stated that under other circumstances, he would not have dared to attack the dragon's family. But the cold weather came early, and there were many hungry people in the mountains. Nobody cares about ordinary people. No one lowered taxes. A man appeared and said that soon a small one from the dragon family would appear with supplies. Joe didn't like the word petty, so the leader quickly apologized. Kay said it was okay, no need to touch him. Then he asked why they don't accept new people. The leader replied that when the victims arrive, they are made slaves. He is not like them. That's why he came here, Kay said. It means the leader is one of the just ones. And he said that he was going to clear the gorge, but the leader said that the other bandits had already prepared something. Kay promised to help the leader, and in return he would follow him. He created a blade and said that if he lost, the leader could return to the mountains. And if he wins, the leader will swear eternal loyalty to him. The leader accepted Kay's offer, but John called Kay over. They only have 3,000 people. It would be better for them to go around the gorge. Kay replied that some people were well prepared, and if they went around, they would lose much more. If they encounter a sudden attack, they will be exhausted, and the dragon family will never run away or become cowardly. In Little Kay, Joe saw his boss. Moreover, you can take the catch from the bandits. Now this is a trait from my mother. Kay said that they go out at night. Joe saw the future of the dragon family in Kay. Now the bandits are most vulnerable, the best time to attack. The soldiers have already taken their positions and are ready to attack. While they were discussing their plan, the stranger watched them. The magician complained that it was not easy with Kay because he decided to attack. You can't count on thick-headed magicians. He created a bright light and sound. thereby waking up the bandits. The magician warned the bandits, and the surprise attack failed. Kay ordered to hurry. We need to attack before the bandits react. Will was hesitant and asked if maybe they should leave. But Kay said that if anyone wanted to do that, he would deal with them personally. Joe suggested that they get out of there, since they had been discovered. Kay said he had some kind of plan, but he can't do it without Joe's help. All the bandits are already here. Will they be able to detain them? The leader said it was impossible. Then Kay asked Joe if Joe believed in him. Joe replied that he had never heard of such a deadly tactic. He doesn't even know what Kay is going to do, but it's what makes his blood boil. Joe ordered his men to show the true power of the 7 dragons. The knights trusted Kay, and Kay thanked them and promised to return soon. He took the leader with him. The leader had already decided that Kay had abandoned his own. Kay ordered to show the way. The magician decided that Kay wanted to attack alone. And having decided to prevent this, Will noticed the magician and offered help. But Kay said that her help would be needed later. The bandits concentrate on fighting the main forces, and only the one who wants to kill Kay will follow him. This man revealed their location and plan to the bandits. Kay threw the Hydra's venom right into the traitor's face. But the magician winced a little and shouted, "Stupid poison won't stop him." And then, the skin on his hand began to peel off. The Hydra's poison can dissolve the opponent's attack. And the magician used magic, thereby bringing this upon himself. The leader couldn't believe that Kay was able to deal with a 7th-rank mage with 1 vial of poison. It's a pity I couldn't get any useful information out of him. Now they need to hurry in case the bandits figure out what's going on. Then they will send people here, and it will be difficult for them to find them. Will asked why no one was guarding the bandits' lair. Kay replied that they had no brains. None of the bandits bothered to think about protection. Kay easily caught the bandits who were sleeping at their post with a vine. Will showed Kay where the people were, and Kay decided to split up with Sam. To get all the refugees out, that was Kay's plan. Kay freed the refugees from captivity, but there was a problem. They have nowhere to go, and in such weather they will quickly die in the forest. Kay knew about their problems and offered to go with him to his lands. He explained that he was a member of the dragon family and had his own lands. Kay also promised to free them from taxes and show them a good life. The people replied that if everything he said was true, they would follow him. Kay stated that the dragon's family kept its word, but they would have to go to his land on their own. He told them to take food from the bandits so that they could reach his land safely. Sam asked why Kay was doing this. Didn't he want to make some extra money? Kay explained that they lack manpower. People are their main wealth. He needs to get to Joe, so Kay asked Sam to take these people there. He gave him the elixir and ran away. Sam, without knowing it, rushed to carry out his order. But he admitted that Kay had a powerful aura, was brave, smart, and calculating. He is a born ruler, one who is not ashamed to serve. The boys were still fighting. They were waiting for their master, and Joe ordered them to hold back the bandits. Suddenly a rumble was heard from the hill. It was Kay. Everyone turned their attention to him. Their wounds were instantly healed. This is the praise of the light. What is 10th tier magic? Joe was worried about this because Kay's powers were still sealed. He didn't understand how Kay was able to use high magic. And here is the reason for the incredible magic, our powerful princess. Joe shouted, "We can't let the master's efforts go to waste." He ordered the soldiers to fight and capture the bandits. The bandits, seeing that the soldiers' wounds had healed, became frightened. But there was a problem. Kay's body couldn't withstand such power. A little more and his body would simply collapse. Will asked him to stop. Kay reassured her by showing her that he had a restorative pill. Then in the kingdom of the immortals he was alone, and he was not afraid of death. So how can he retreat when there are so many people fighting around him now? Kay was grateful to them and could not abandon them. Leading a team to victory is much more interesting than fighting alone. An hour later, the battle was over. All the bandits were defeated. Thanks to Kay's powerful magic, their side suffered no losses. Joe decided to report this to Kay immediately. He ran proudly and joyfully to Kay to make him happy. However, Joe didn't know that Kay had to put in a lot of effort to win. Having finished the battle, Kay was exhausted and fell to the ground. It's all because of his weak body. A little more and he would have simply died. But he hadn't finished his business yet. Stella and Pippi were patiently waiting for Kay. Then Joe came running. He had Kay in his hands. Joe was calling Stella. He said that they were ambushed, and Kay used too much magic. Joe was in a panic. He didn't know what to do. So I just started blaming myself for everything that happened. And then Pippi shouted to him, "Stop crying, Kay is just sleeping." Joe calmed down and asked how long he would sleep. Pippi replied, "His body is exhausted. It's hard to say when he will wake up. But there are things he can do to help." Thanks to the foul smell coming from Pippi's mouth, Kay immediately woke up. Kay immediately said that he had an assignment for Joe. The strangers showed up and thought that Kay was just lucky to survive the battle with the bandits. But next time luck is not on their side, only Kay is wounded. But they didn't even have a single wizard in their squad, so they attacked. As soon as Joe noticed the bandits, Joe gave a signal. And at that very moment, clubs fell from the mountains. Kay had foreseen this too. Sam and the refugees stopped the bandits. Their leader declared that the pieces of wood would not stop him. They didn't know they had fallen into Kay's trap. They drove them here to make it easier for Stella to fight. The road is blocked, and Stella has dropped snow on them from above. Stella was proud of her cool attack. It's a pity Kay didn't see it. Joe said that Stella was a powerful magician, and Stella claimed that Kay was cooler. It's hard to argue with that. Kay will be a great ruler. No matter how many threats arise, Kay and his team will deal with them. Finally, they reached the province, but Kay was still sleeping. He used too much magic, but there is another problem. Kay continues to have nightmares about the Stoneheart family, and he calls upon magic, so Stella has to stop him. The Kay army was attacked once again. Joe ordered everyone to take their places. A strange man shouted, "He is Piru, the owner of this mountain. If they don't want to die, let them give up their supplies immediately." Joe wasn't going to listen to his nonsense and went on the attack. But the lizard monster attacked first, and the poor horse took the blow, and Joe himself jumped up to attack the man. He stated that he was usually not interested in fighting old people. But he looks pretty strong. Joe was offended that he was called old. Joe began swinging his blade furiously. Piru's techniques are familiar to Joe. He has a feeling they have met before. Asking about it now wasn't the best idea. Joe attacked him. Piru's men became worried, but he ordered them to seize supplies. Then they ran towards the caravan, naively assuming that they would not be stopped. Sam and the knights were already in their places and ready to fight. While the boys were fighting, Joe was apparently trying to remember the man, and he became even stranger, flared up and screamed. It had been a long time since anyone had forced him to fight at full strength. Berserker, angry berserker. Joe was scared out of his wits. A strange man attacked Joe and he was unable to block the blow. His men shouted proudly that they would now win in an instant. The knights did not understand where the berserker came from in such a remote place. However, they are ready to defend their master, who is currently sleeping. Little Stella got scared and started crying. And that's when Kay woke up, and he immediately asked who dared to bring his little sister to tears. Soon the berserker will understand that he shouldn't have offended Kay's little sister. The berserker jumped onto the supply cart. He was already celebrating. Which is not something you should have done, because Kay is ready to put out that lighter. Kay captured the berserker in a water trap. But the man said that simple water magic would not stop him. He didn't know that there were little ones there that were absorbing his power. These water spirits are from the Elven clan and feed on rage. They won't kill him, but it's enough to detain him. Kay jumped over his head again and stopped the bandits with vines. Then he ordered to break through the encirclement and head towards the castle. The knights immediately obeyed and, having gathered themselves, left the battlefield. Berserker decided to fight Kay again, but this time in the castle. He didn't know that Kay was from the dragon family and still doubted it. And he decided that he needed to send someone to the city to find out about it. The man asked if the new owner had arrived and if he should be met. The fat man was a tax inspector, and he hoped that Kay would be killed on the way. But since he survived, it's worth going to greet him. Kay gave the elixir to Joe and asked Sam to distribute the elixirs to the soldiers. Joe woke up and screamed. He was fighting the berserker when Kay woke up. Sam yelled that if it weren't for Kay, they would all be screwed. Their opponent is the son of a swordmaster, plus a magical beast. It will be difficult with him. Grandfather told Kay about his sworn enemy, Carl, who might be in his province. Joe was sure that this robber was definitely a descendant of Carl. A couple of years ago, the archbishop declared them heretics and expelled them. He took away the right to be called knights and forbade them to return. From then until recently, there was no news from them. Joe didn't understand why Carl's descendants decided to become bandits. Sam didn't understand the problem and asked why not just ask them. But Kay replied that until they figured out the situation, they couldn't act rashly. This could have a negative impact on Carl's family, who probably have reasons for such behavior. Now it's time to sort out internal affairs. The residents joyfully greeted Kay. Kay was surprised by this reception, because he had been told that this was a backward city. The tax inspector greeted Kay and introduced himself, and he offered to take Kay to the residence. They prepared the mansion specifically to ensure Kay's comfort. The fat man promised that many surprises awaited Kay here. He is sure that Kay will not even want to leave the mansion. Kay replied that in that case, he couldn't wait to see everything. Smelling the smell, Sam jumped to the fountain and started drinking. It turned out that it was not water, but wine of incredible taste. Suddenly, a mermaid jumped out of the fountain, and hugging Sam, she said that she could make his wishes come true. A very strange way to involve a child in this city. It seemed like the lustful fat man wanted to distract Kay from his duties. He plans to lure Kay into a golden cage. Maybe other owners fell for it. Kay is a child. Kay was able to notice some kind of mark on the girl's chest. But from the outside, everything didn't look so innocent. The fat man's plan was quickly revealed. However, it's easy to manipulate men with wine and their lust. So he held power all these years. Kay said he was going to rest. The fat man asked if the gentleman didn't like the wine. Kay replied that he preferred juice. and Mom said that rest was necessary. Then Kip wished Kay sweet dreams. And when Kay got away, the fat man was glad that his plan had worked. Then he ordered Mao to keep an eye on Kay and report his every move. Kay let out a sigh once he was able to get rid of the annoying Kip. Now we can get down to business. Kay wanted to know how things were going here. Lei became Kay's eyes and showed the true appearance of the city. In reality, things are much worse than Kay could have imagined. Kip couldn't have been involved here, so we need to think about how to deal with him. Suddenly, Kay noticed an old acquaintance who, as always, was acting recklessly. Kay asked Lei to tell Joe that Kip must not be allowed to discover their guest. It was not possible to go about my business in peace. It seems surveillance has begun. Mao came and said that Kip told her that he might have a hard time falling asleep on his own. So she came to help. What story would Kay like to hear at night? It seems that someone needs to wash themselves with holy water. Mao suggested the story of Snow White. Kay thought she had deliberately misinterpreted Kip's clear instruction. And since she is smart, you can cooperate with her, Kay asked. That rune is the brand of a slave. That's right. This mark demonstrates that their lives do not belong to them. They, who come from other clans, cannot leave, and they don't even have rights. Kay asked why they weren't resisting. Mao explained that it was useless. These runes are of ecclesiastical origin, and once again the old archbishop is to blame. Even strong warriors are unable to resist its effects, just like Kay's seal. This time, the Stoneheart family outdid themselves. They turned Borum province into a real prison. Then Kay decided to help. As the owner of the lands, he has the right to remove these runes. He promised to free not only Mao, but all the inhabitants. On behalf of the entire clan and herself personally, Mao thanked Kay. Then our Joe arrived with the berserker. Kip did not notice Pyrrha. Piru shouted that he thought Kay was a good person, but it turns out he was just a common hooligan. Mao did not tolerate insults towards her savior. Seeing her strength, Joe became nervous, but Kay calmed him down. And then he suggested that Pyrrha talk calmly. Kay said he had no intention of leaving the city in ruins. He can't do it alone, so he hopes for their cooperation. Piru reluctantly agreed to trust Kay once, but if Kay lied, they would be enemies. Of course, Piru wanted this slave mark on him to disappear. Morning came and Kip continued to suck up to Kay as best he could. Sleepy Kay said that if it weren't for the ceremony, he would have slept some more. Kip replied that there wouldn't be much time for sleep and games, but he had a proposal for Kay. To make life easier for Kay, he will certainly take over the governance of the province. Kay replied that this is exactly what he would do when he took office. The fat man was already celebrating his victory over the child. Kay said that all of Kip's trusted people should be present at the ceremony. He needs to know them. Otherwise, if Mom asks questions he doesn't answer, she'll get angry. Naive Kip did just that and prepared everything. Kay asked, "It's quite convenient." Kip also fooled the previous gentleman. "This is a document of liberation from slavery, and as for them, they will all be expelled from these lands once and for all. The Archbishop and his faithful dogs, their rule over this territory. From today on it's over." With this, Kay loudly put his seal. He intends to create a new world here. Kip did not like this. Throwing away his mask, Kip shouted that if the brat went against him, he would go against the Stoneheart family. Kay replied that he would try anyway, then ordered Joe to grab everyone. To send them to Stormwind for punishment, Kip kept yelling that his army would come for them. He didn't yet know that the slave marks had disappeared, and now his army was free. As a sign of gratitude, the Berserkers and the Feathered Clan decided to fight for Kay. Kip couldn't understand how Kay managed to do all this while under his supervision. But it doesn't matter anymore. A new era is about to begin that Kip won't see. The refugees will arrive soon. It will be a breath of fresh air for Borum. Kay will make this place rich and prosperous. Piru ran to his people and shouted that the new master of the province was here. Seeing that the heir had returned, they quickly opened the gates for him. Their house, by the way, is located on the border with the Elven Forest. Piru warned that his father disliked the people of Stormwind. Kay wasn't worried. He came to negotiate cooperation. He correctly noted that Piru was more nervous than him. Piru tried to hide his excitement, but it was obvious, which only made Kay laugh and reminded him of his grandfather. Grandfather's sworn friend, exactly the same as him in character, as soon as they opened the door. As the leg flew at them, the old man was angry that Piru brought Kay to them. Piru tried to explain that Kay was not like the previous rulers. Kay said hello and said that his grandfather missed Carl and often thought of him. With the help of compliments, Kay quickly found a common language with Carl. Piru was irritated that a couple of compliments were enough to make his father change his expression to a smile. Between talking about the past, Kay asked if he could discuss something. First, Piru said that the winter had been harsh, so he brought food and money. Secondly, he wants to introduce a system of cooperative management. Therefore, he hopes that Carl will become the head of the Berserker clan in Borum. A generous offer. Carl asked if Kay was afraid they would betray him. Kay replied that his grandfather had said that the Berserkers had gained a reputation as loyal and wise creatures. How could he doubt them? Carl burst out laughing again. Kay added that he would like to hire a couple of berserkers for his army. The salary would be his. The negotiations went well. Piru said that it seemed like they were the only ones benefiting so far. But Kay will receive the strongest army that Stormwind refused. This is more valuable than treasures and supplies. The loyalty of such fighters is priceless. No matter how much he put in, it's just a drop in the ocean of what Kay will get. His goal is the unknown treasures of the Elven Forest. The berserkers caught the dog and the earth python. Previously, it would have taken several people just to subdue a beast of this level. Piru praised Kay for the trap and asked what kind of picture Kay was drawing. This is a map of the Elven Forest. The province currently has no map. After 6 months of research, he realized that these two were not the biggest fish in the forest. Piru was surprised that rank 7 monsters weren't the best prey. There should be mineral deposits near the lair of these monsters. According to Kay's calculations, they are somewhere around here. Kay hit the rock and they saw this crystal. Ice stone mine. Piru was shocked by such a find. Kay said, as always, they can take 1/3. Piru didn't understand why Kay would share with them. After all, he found it himself, Kay replied. He wouldn't have been able to explore the territories without them. Suddenly Kay's mother called and they started talking. This transmitter was created by Kay himself. Piru admired Kay's fine workmanship. It's Auntie's birthday next month, so Kay can visit them. Of course, Kay wanted to visit them. But he was worried about the Archbishop. Cecile told Kay not to think about him and to just go back. Kay decided that his mother was right and looked forward to meeting his family. He immediately began to prepare for the trip. The road was long and everyone had to take care of supplies. Then Will suggested a trick and put everything in the ring and use the portal. Kay explained that if you put the boys in the ring, they will die there. Mao prepared a gift when they heard about Kay's return. Kay had already prepared a gift on behalf of the entire Borum, so there was no need. But Mao and the townspeople were grateful for Kay's kindness, and they wanted to thank him. Everyone was ready to help Kay. Not only with treasure, they were ready to serve Kay faithfully and truly. This is a priceless gift, the devotion of people, Kay thanked the residents. Joe reported that there were some problems with the delivery of the dog. Kay asked if someone had interfered. Joe replied that it was not like that at all. The monster turned out to be female and had just given birth, which Kay really didn't expect. The festive banquet began, and Cecile congratulated her aunt. The queen was glad that Cecile had come. The rest was not so important. Then Cecile asked, "It doesn't really matter, but what about little Kay?" The villain said that he probably just decided not to embarrass himself. She still believed that Borum province was in decline. She wanted to make a toast and then leave immediately. Cecile was irritated by the arrogance of a simple concubine. And anyway, what right does she have to make a toast? The queen replied that she was the archbishop's sister and believed that she could do anything. She intends to take the church under her influence, and then she will get rid of this thorn. The queen knew that Kay would help her with this, and the old man and his evil sister gloated. So much time has passed, and they still don't know that Kay has become a wonderful ruler. Suddenly someone shouted, "This is the master of the province of Borum." Baron Kay of the dragon family arrived for the queen's birthday celebration. The baron brought with him an entire army of 3,000 berserkers and a bunch of gifts. There are so many of them that they cannot store them in the warehouse. The villains couldn't believe what they heard. It seemed the king was even more afraid of Kay. But the sisters weren't surprised. They had no doubts about Kay's abilities. Kay greeted everyone and said that he wanted to hand over the gifts directly to them. He brought ice stones, which can only be found in the provinces. Just 1 gram of such a stone will cost hundreds of thousands of gold. These decorations are gifts from all the clans living in the territory of Borum. Handmade by gnomes, they will decorate your aunt in the best possible way. This is a festive work attire from the feathered clan. Auntie has no equal in mastering the element of fire, and this dress will allow her to shine even brighter. The aunt was happy. "It's the archbishop's turn," Kay said. Kip had plundered the treasury and established his own laws. He constantly insisted that he was the archbishop's trusted man. That's why he's here today, so they can clear things up. Now the old man realized that for the past 6 months, Kay had been sending him all these letters on behalf of Kip. All this was done to lull his vigilance. The old man exchanged glances with his sister, and she ran and hit Kip. Then she made ridiculous accusations that he was late and brought someone uninvited. Kay replied that he had to attend to his family's affairs, and that it took time. Then she accused Kay of disrespecting the crown. What hypocrisy. Kay showed his dogs and said that these two were a gift to the queen. The king immediately perked up when he saw the 7th rank beast. Kay said, to be precise, they are for Her Majesty's son. The archbishop began to whisper that this must be a drop in the ocean, and that Kay had kept the real wealth for himself. It's easy to manipulate such a worthless king. He recalled that he had freed Borum from taxes, all thanks to him. And now that the situation has stabilized, he will return the taxes. The old man said that they were currently short of money. Kay reminded that the kingdom's finances are under his control. Moreover, the king personally exempted his territory from taxes for life. and now he is breaking his promise. This offended the king, and he advised Kay to watch his language. The old man argued with the child one-on-one about taxes. Kay pointed out that the archbishop wanted to impose taxes to line his own pocket. Having completely exposed the old man's plan, Kay angered him, and he began to yell. The king was also overcome with greed, and shouted that he was taking away Boram's right to avoid paying taxes. Aunt intervened in the argument and said that Kay wouldn't lose anything because of the taxes. Then she reminded her husband that Kay was still a child, and that he was loyal to the crown. But Kay said the dragon family is loyal and proud. They will never back down or ask for mercy. Even though they wear expensive clothes, their words are not worth a penny. He has no intention of paying if the archbishop is incompetent in financial management. That is his problem. He is coming back. Kay's impudent words infuriated the king, and he called for advice. He wanted to make Kay pay for his words. Cecile never intervened the whole time. At home, Dad hit Kay for openly going against the king. And then the grandfather hit the father because Dean let him wipe his feet on their family for so long. Kay reminded them that they had elves, dragons, and berserkers on their side, and the family had nothing to fear. He has no intention of allowing the evil family to continue to ruin their lives. Cecile said that the king called a meeting and the soldiers overheard the conversation. Kay told her that he was not afraid of the king, even if he attacked. Cecile explained that their family's army would not be able to openly come out on his side. She asks him to be careful. Kay is not against using brute force. The next day, Pirou asked these people following them what to do. These two are sent to collect taxes from Kay. The king sent Cossack women behave too boldly. Kay reminded them that he wouldn't pay taxes, so they could get lost. The old men shouted that Kay was disobeying the king's order. Then Kay began to swing his sword in front of them. On the wall, Kay wrote that those who dare to cross the line will die. He will repeat again, he will not pay taxes. Then Kay ordered that they move to Boram. Seeing everything with his own eyes, the king screamed in anger. He ordered the soldiers lying in ambush to kill Kay's army. Then a soldier came running and shouted, "The palace guards were killed. Last night a group of unknown people attacked them." The archbishop screamed, "This is all the work of Kay and his family." The soldier said there were no traces connected to his family. Without evidence, it is impossible to prove their guilt. The king realized that he was now helpless against Kay, and Kay was a threat to his authority. 5 years later, the man brought meager taxes to the king. The king complained that this had been happening for several years, and demanding an explanation, Bill from the Stone-Hearted family blamed Kay for everything. He said that because of Kay, the traitors left Stormwind. The king was angry that he had to endure this for 5 years because of the brat. The archbishop said that the Kay family was to blame, and that the dragon family needed to be weakened. The king was not against it, but he did not know how the archbishop already had a plan. The dragon family is currently in battle and has sent a letter asking for reinforcements. Without Dean, the family would be easier to subjugate, the king believed. The archbishop said that if the king was willing to spend a little, he would apply pressure. On the southern border of the states, a man shouted that he would kill Dean. It was Matthew, one of the 4 generals, who specialized in dark magic. He screamed at his demons to tear Dean apart. It was difficult for the soldiers, because they were fighting monsters, and there was a very bad effect in the battle with them. Dean's soldiers began to mutate into the same monsters. It's all about dark magic, Dean was told about it. Then Dean ordered the soldiers to immobilize the monsters, but not kill them. It was not without reason that they feared Dean. He was a skilled fighter. But this is just buying time. They need reinforcements. Suddenly, a huge bolt of lightning came down from the sky, but Dean was able to jump back. He had excellent reflexes and understood how the enemy's technique worked. But the enemy was sure that the outcome of the battle was already decided. He intended to make a slave out of Dean. If he begs him, of course. Dean shouted that his family would never be anyone's slave. Then the enemy shouted. It seemed Dean had made his choice. He created a dragon out of dark magic and attacked Dean. And although Dean managed to block the blow, the dragon's power was powerful. Dean fell into the ground. The enemy laughed and celebrated his victory. However, at that very moment he felt a magical aura. Dean is not capable of this. Kay came to help his dad. Dean didn't expect this at all. He asked what Kay was doing there. Ignoring the enemy, Kay calmly replied, "Mom said Dad asked for reinforcements. That's why he came." Kay was popular. Even the enemy knew about him. He shouted. Even though Kay was strong, he couldn't cope with 150 soldiers. Kay asked who said that he came alone. He just arrived first. The giant teleportation array should be ready soon. The enemy didn't believe in the teleport, but it looks like he'll have to eat his words. Teleporters appeared in the sky and berserkers emerged from them. Kay ordered Pirou to kill them, then Pirou told his people to kill the enemies. The enemy still believed that he was winning, because he could turn soldiers into monsters. But Kay had everything planned for this too. The dragon's horn. Praise of the light healed the converted soldiers. To be more precise, it is a healing array. Kay managed to extract it from the praise of light. The enemy army is finished. It's time for the enemy himself to say goodbye to life. The enemy called upon his magic, shouting, "Let him not think that he is unaware. He knows that K is only a 3rd rank mage, and he is an 8th rank mage." K stated that the enemy did not seem to understand that this was not a magical duel, but a real war. In war, knowledge and skills are important, rank means little. The man didn't expect K to attack directly, and was still able to block the attack. He didn't like the way K looked down on him. He will show K what it means to fall before absolute power. The enemy created 8th rank forbidden techniques, but K was not impressed. But the man thought that his attacks were beyond praise and celebrated his victory. He thought K wouldn't be able to survive the attack, so K had to talk him out of it. The overconfident enemy never expected that K was alive. K laughed at the fact that the enemy had survived so many wars and still didn't know about the weak spot. He is a magician, but also an alchemist. Lightning strikes high points of objects. Metal is excellent for conducting electricity. Yet another proof that you need to use your brain in battle. K attacked him, but the enemy's body changed, and he declared that they would meet again. Dad ran up and asked where Matthew was. K answered, "No, he ran away, but he won't attack Stormwind." Considering his wounds, Dean laughed contentedly. He was too calm. That's why K said that if his mother hadn't told him in time, Matthew would be happy now. When he refused to obey and left Stormwind, the Pope accused him of undermining the king's reputation. The king knew that Dean would lose and had no intention of sending reinforcements. Does father really think that remaining loyal to the king is the right decision? They must be loyal to the people of the kingdom, not to any one person. Well, his mom told him his dad was slow, so he made armor out of dragon scales. She will protect him, and since K finished his business, he decided to return to Borum. Piru told all the berserkers to hurry and return home. Dean cursed that his little one dared to lecture him since he had flown out of the nest. But then he admitted that perhaps he should reconsider his views. Still, he was pleased that K had given him this armor. He was proud that his son himself made a gift for him. At home, K realized he needed to improve the teleporter. Stella said that her mother had asked to be informed of his arrival, and Mao had prepared a report. K knew roughly what his mother wanted to say, about the king's awards and so on. But this war was planned to destroy K's family. So K decided to listen to the report first, and then call his mother in the evening. Mao arrived and K thanked her for the work she had done. And Mao said to report on the current situation in the city. With their numbers and economy growing, the orcs have applied for permission to enter Borum. K asked why they decided to travel such a distance. Mao explained that they come here mainly because of the war. But since when did orcs start worrying about such things? Something else must have happened, and K will find out what it is. On the outskirts of Borum, Joe was at a temporary orc camp. Joe brought supplies from Baron K. The orcs were happy. They talked about how generous K was. K was also here, but he hid his identity. The orcs called K one of the 4 heroes. But this was the first time K had heard him called that, so the orc explained. Princess Jessica, who formed the first orc army, Prince Don, defeated the pirates. Prince Carl, who raised the strongest horse, and K, refused to pay taxes to the king. All 4 are renowned for their fighting prowess, and are called the future of states. Then K asked who would win if Jessica and K went head-to-head. The orc awkwardly replied that he didn't know, and that he had to go, and quickly ran away from the strange K. Even Joe thought it was strange, but K was convinced of his guess. K said that a serious battle awaits them very soon, and he ordered everyone to gather at the Lord's residence. A little while later, Joe called all the leaders together and came to K. Mao, head of the Winged Clan, Carrie, head of the Elf Clan, and Parker, head of the Dwarf Clan. K reported that this time their enemy was the state of Vanna, General Cage, and 1 princess. Carrie asked if K had come to this conclusion simply by walking around the orc camp. The camp consisted of only old people and children, and the tents were adorned with the phoenix emblem of the Van state. Just recently there was a famine in Van, and those who did not know how to fight were sent out as an advanced reconnaissance group. Most likely this is all the idea of the 7 princesses. She sent them here specifically to enjoy the supplies and conduct an investigation. Joe asked why they were Cage if they were leading troops to the city of the White Tiger. Kay replied that there was a crisis in the White Tiger city. If Vanna couldn't take it, they would choose a new target, that is, Borum. Joe believed that Vanna would not dare to go through the elven forest. But Kay reminded that for greater convenience, he had built a straight road through the forest. Connecting Borum and Vanna, what if this road was discovered? With their equipment and the current state of affairs, they will definitely choose this path. Joe didn't understand how anyone could find out about this road. They kept everything a secret. Parker knew the answer. The merchants were probably offended by the prices and passed the information on to the military. Mao said they could have discovered it naturally. It was hard to miss the active transportation of Kay's goods. And Joe tried so hard to hide everything. Kay felt awkward, so he returned to the topic of Vanna's army. Carrie added that it was only a matter of time before the road was discovered. Kay has elves under his command. One word, and Van's army will be attacked. But Kay didn't want to waste valuable resources. Suddenly, Kay remembered the monsters in the elven forest. They can be used. With their help, they will win. A couple of days later, on the other side of the elven forest, Jim noticed his father looking worried. Then Cage said, they would have to go against the Guardian of Borum. Cage knew it would be difficult. Rem said that Kay is not loyal to Stormwind. Perhaps it will be possible to pass without a fight. But Jim argued, because they had just captured the city of the White Tiger. When they enter Borum, Kay will definitely fight back. There was an awkward silence, and then Cage said that if he went ahead with this, they would use brute force. He ordered the soldiers to prepare to attack Borum. They were watched by Kay with the help of Lei, but Kay did not want to rush. The troops had to go further. And Cage and Dad are still friends. He hopes that Cage will manage to get out of the forest alive. A few days later, Wong's army reached a remote part of the forest. Now they need to cross the river and reach the borders of Borum. Naive Jim was glad that there had not been a single attack for so many days. And Cage felt uneasy precisely because of this. Everything was too good. This forest is too quiet, so much so that he senses danger from everywhere. Joe admired Cage's vigilance. At this time it was good that they were in no hurry to attack. Piru thought that Kay had forgotten to signal them, since Vanna was already at the river. Joe scolded him for his amateurism. You have to believe Kay. Piru shouted that he was just expressing his opinion. Then Joe said that a soldier must obey orders, and that's all. Piru knew this, but if nothing was done, Borum would fall. Meanwhile, Kay and Mao found what they were looking for, but Mao was worried. After all, it is difficult to control an amethyst bee. One sting and an ordinary person will die. Kay replied that nothing ventured, nothing gained. Moreover, they can use such an opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The queen bee came out to eat 1 gram of their honey costs 10,000 gold. Kay has an invisibility talisman, but he can't touch anyone or the effect will wear off. Mao heard about this talisman for the first time. She asked if Kay had created it. And so it was. Even though he created it in a hurry, Kay could have hidden an entire city. If only there had been more time, and if the magic had not been sealed. Kay really has disappeared. It's time to get to the bees. The queen bee ate calmly and did not know that they had already gotten to her. Kay was able to capture the queen using a stick and concealment magic. All the other bees flew after him and left their home, which allowed Mao to collect honey in peace. Joe noticed the signal and shouted to the soldiers to open the dam. The water, together with huge fish, burst forward. Rem noticed a huge number of amethyst bees flying towards them. Cage shouted for everyone to jump into the water without panicking. But Kay foresaw this too, and he threw the queen to Cage. And the amethyst bees decided that he was to blame for everything. His soldiers also came under attack, and Cage had already decided that this was heavenly punishment. Jim was already panicking, but Ram still hoped that the water would save them. Here, another surprise from Kay awaited them. The piranhas had already reached the soldiers. Rem couldn't understand where the piranhas had suddenly appeared in the water from, and Cage already understood that they had fallen into Kay's trap. He screamed in despair. It was all over before they could even enter the kingdom. Kay was so young and ruthless. An incredible plan. It seems Cage was even proud of Kay's plan, or was impressed. The soldiers jumped to protect their general, and Kay watched the spectacle. Kay felt a little sad, but he couldn't let them pass. War is an incredibly cruel thing. Nothing can be done about it. Rem pulled out his father, who was buried by soldiers. They did not manage to survive. Gasping for breath, Cage shouted out what was happening to the wounded like Jim. Ram replied that they had 2,000 men left, and Jim was seriously wounded. Cage was furious. Out of 20,000, there were only 2,000 left. It still remains a mystery to Cage how Kay managed to attract the bees. Someone shouted, "Cage can ask this personally." Cage looked up and saw the net. Joe caught the survivors and reported that Kay wanted to talk about what happened. He asked them to follow him without any tricks, otherwise the number of victims would increase. Mao reported that she had collected honey. Then Kay said that amethyst bee honey is the best antidote, and he asked that it be cleaned and distributed to the surviving soldiers. Kay planned to lure Cage to his side. He walked into the room and asked if Uncle Cage was hurt. Suddenly, Kay fell to his knee and declared that he deserved to die for what had happened. Cage asked him to stand up and said that as a prisoner, he could not accept an apology. Kay said that they are not prisoners here. He has already distributed the antidote. He won't even stop them if they decide to leave. Anyone who wants to kill him can try their luck. Pure moral pressure. Cage understood this and said that Kay is much smarter than his father. And he offered to buy his freedom, but Kay needs people, not money. He wanted Cage to go with him to the capital. And also, Kay didn't understand why they chose the dangerous road. Cage explained that a woman had appeared, and the rabbit was indulging her whims. It was her idea. Kay asked why he should remain faithful to some stupid and lustful old man. Of course, the loyal soldier was offended by such a proposal. He will continue to follow orders even if they lead to disaster. Then Kay asked if the king ordered Cage to serve him, he would obey. Cage thought it was just a joke and laughed, but still agreed. Kay asked Cage to remember that he agreed to serve him. Joe overheard their conversation, and told K that the King of Van would never agree to this. But K, as always, had his own plan. He asked Joe to send Wong a letter about Cage's loss. As K had expected, the king sent his mistress to them. Miss Chelsea was extremely unhappy about having to deal with this. She was complaining that K was late when suddenly he appeared. Miss Chelsea introduced herself to K, who offered to get down to business. K wanted to talk about the terms under which they wanted to get Cage back, but because of Cage's failure, she didn't want to spend a lot on him. She hinted that K might just kill Cage. K, of course, rejected such an offer. But the miss said that this was an order from the king himself, but K did not believe it. Then she offered 2 million gold for the reward. Cage is not worth more. K reminded that this whole battle was her idea. She is guilty of the death of soldiers. What will Cage do with her when he returns? Miss arranged this trip to earn money. K recorded their conversation. When he threatened to send the crystal, Miss immediately apologized. And she agreed to fulfill his demands, which is what K was trying to achieve. K told her to return with a decree from the king, which would state that Cage must be loyal to him. Miss objected. Cage is the guarantor of the safety of the entire kingdom. The king will not give such an order. K offered to give 100,000 gold pieces, which would be enough to pacify the civilians. He destroyed almost the entire army. If the kingdom is gone, then what good will his return do? And the king will not very much agree with her methods of inciting passions. It seems that Miss decided to use her charm to make K change his mind. But K was adamant he would accompany Cage to Stormwind. And hoping to receive good news, he will give another 10,000. After completing the task, and if not, then he can prepare for death. A couple of months later, in Stormwind, the people welcomed Lord K. Everyone is happy that K managed to repel Vanna's attack. K's popularity grew, but K didn't think so. They shouted K's name, but they hugged and praised the warriors. Little K seemed to be a little jealous, although he denied it. Then K's parents came running. His mother was happy about her son's return. Finally, K got his share of hugs and immediately started swimming. K was talking about how much he missed his mom, and she asked if he brought anything special. It's all because the royal family and the aristocrats hate K. He needs to butter them up. K asked his mother not to worry so much, he knew that. Dad told K to hurry to the meeting room. The king is already waiting. K asked why not in the ceremonial one. Dean replied, for some reason. The king decided to interrogate Cage and demanded that K be absent. K asked what was written in the military report that was delivered to the king. Dean replied that K had discovered Van's army after the bee attack. And what if K took advantage of this to capture Cage? Dean asked K not to worry about it. But K deliberately hid the attack. He didn't want to expose his technique. He couldn't resist and decided to burst into the hall, even if it was a provocation. Opening the doors, K surprised everyone present. But after, K politely introduced himself. To his surprise, the king greeted him joyfully. The unexpectedness alarmed K, but he still lied that he also missed the king. The king probably wanted to interrogate Cage to find out K's secrets. It doesn't look like Cage is here as a prisoner, and what's with that smile? Cage is a friend not only of the Pope, but also of the king. He just wanted to see him. And also for K to apologize to Cage. Cage was defeated only because of the bees, not because of K, the king declared. They laughed at K, thinking he was just lucky. No one planned to reward him, rather. They wanted to humiliate K in front of the aristocracy. A smart person, he knows how to adapt in time and hide his trump cards. So K decided to play along with the luck story. But Cage was not happy with the lie. He shouted that K had defeated him. He was more offended by the fact that the king thought he was unable to cope with the monsters. K's game quickly failed, and the king realized that it was no accident. Cage insisted that K had brought these monsters upon them. K didn't want to admit it, but Cage said that if it weren't for K, he would have already drenched Stormwind in blood. He saved the entire kingdom, but this praise was more likely to ruin K than to help him. So K decided to take matters into his own hands and claimed he was just lucky. It seemed like Cage was slowly beginning to understand what K was up to. K knew that if the king knew that he had thought of all this, the king would see him as even more of a threat. Cage realized this by looking at him. He realized that K had calculated and thought everything through. Suddenly Cage took out his sword. K asked what he was doing, and he himself was worried that Cage wanted to challenge him in front of everyone. In any case, K doesn't intend to show off his full potential here. But Cage had other plans. He said that he would publicly declare Baron K's victory. And since he lost, from now on the strongest general is K. Well, if K takes this title, he will become a target for everyone. But if he backs down, it will affect the family's reputation. The trickster forces K to make a choice. K is not a coward. Cage cannot be disappointed in him. He accepted this sword and the status of the strongest general. He also stated, he doesn't like unpleasant surprises, but he has never been afraid of anything, much less anyone. His uncle tries to intimidate him, but it's still not enough. The king was pleased. The dragon family would become famous. The king invited K to the ceremony, and he said that he was looking forward to the moment when he would tell everyone the great news. Cage was once again convinced of Kay's determination, and even began to feel sorry for him. What cannot be true for such a person would be the only correct decision. The ceremony began. Edward took out a knife and declared, using the powers that the God of Light had given him, he proclaims Kay a Marquis of the first rank and rewards him with 10,000 gold pieces. And the former strongest general also passed on his title to him. Now everyone on the mainland should know about this. The relatives did not look happy to learn about this, unlike the people. From now on, Kay is the main guarantor of the kingdom's security. The king declared a holiday in honor of this event. The archbishop, however, said there was no need to be so complacent. Someone like Kay, with the blood of aristocrats on his hands, will never be trusted. Kay decided to tease the old man and said that trust is naive, he only believes in strength. The aunt congratulated her nephew, she was proud of him. For the sake of decency, Kay said that all this was a gift from His Majesty. Mom hinted to Kay about his gift to the queen. What she shows is too obvious. Kay said that he brought his aunt a present. Every woman's dream, a bottle masterpiece of the Goblin Master. One bottle alone costs 10,000 gold. Only a great man can appreciate this. Kay has cleverly come up with a new trend that will spread among influential women. He gave a gift and came up with a way to earn more money. The elixir helped the queen to shine and make her even more beautiful. Curiosity aroused, the queen asked what it was. The master immediately said that this was honey from amethyst bees. Kay said hello, but added that the guess was not entirely correct. This bottle contains the most valuable meth of the queen amethyst bees. The master quickly realized that Kay had given this gift to the queen, so that it would become a trend. And he asked to sell him a bottle to restore his magic. Kay offered 3 bottles in exchange for 3 favors. The master decided to accept his terms, despite not knowing what Kay had in mind. A couple of bottles of honey and trust in Kay will be restored. Joe said that the woman was ready to meet Kay. Who would have thought that she would cope so quickly? This time, Cage will have to renounce his loyalty to his king. Kay said that she had pleasantly surprised him by returning so soon, and even with a gift from the king. Miss responded, taking into account the internal crisis in Vanna. The king gave preference to money. Kay said that she, as an official envoy, should convey the king's will to Cage. But she was afraid that Cage would kill her if Kay himself announced such a thing. Then Cage simply wouldn't believe it, so Kay insisted on his own. Miss was extremely unhappy, but there was no choice. Cage dedicated himself entirely to serving the kingdom, and the king betrayed him, so even Kay didn't want to tell Cage about this order of the king. He had already embarrassed Cage enough. Moments later, the explosion happened. Cage blamed not his touched king, but the Miss for his dismissal. Miss asked Kay for help. She is the kingdom's messenger. She cannot be killed. Kay told her to take the money from the residence and leave. Cage told Kay to get out of the way so he could kill her. However, Kay reminded that Cage was now his subordinate. He could simply destroy the letter, but then Cage would be signing a death sentence for the people of Van. After thinking for a moment, Cage fell to his knees and swore to serve Kay. Kay understood that Cage would not trust him so easily. But soon Cage himself will understand that he is the only one he can serve. Suddenly, his grandfather's voice sounded in Kay's head. The king already knew that Cage would serve Kay. And he waits for Kay in the hall, even though it's only been a short time. The archbishop whispered that without Cage, Van would be weak and they should attack now. Kay objected that attacking Van now would be the greatest stupidity. Everyone fell silent at the sight of Kay, and he dropped to one knee and apologized for being late. And he reminded that Van still has the 7th princess. It will not be possible to capture Van. The archbishop wanted to object now, but the king said that Kay was right. Now Cage's loyalty is in great question. He is sure that Cage will not give up so easily. The archbishop is disappointed that the Kay family could not be disparaged. The king suddenly said that the Festival of Lights was coming soon and invited Kay to go with him. Kay immediately thought about what kind of trap awaited him. Grandfather coughed noticeably. Maybe he also thinks that this is a trap. But looking at him, Kay realized that his grandfather was advising him to agree. Then Kay fell on one knee and honorably accepted the king's offer. The king announced that they would set out on a journey in 2 months. Later, Kay asked why his grandfather insisted that he go on the trip. The grandfather teasingly asked if his grandson could also be afraid. But Kay objected that this was not the case. They will go to a solemn ceremony dedicated to the victory of the god of light over darkness. There is a tradition that warriors must fight in the arena, or rather, engage in mortal combat. The king plans to weaken the dragon family's army, thereby getting rid of Kay and his army. Kay shouted in rage, his people are not cannon fodder, why should he agree to this? For some reason, the berserkers and bandits were inspired by the fight. Grandfather said he offered to accept the invitation so that Kay could gain real combat experience. And the stakes are not bad either. Kay realized that both his mother and grandfather were obsessed with money. Kay gave the honey to his grandfather because his leg was injured. The relationship between grandfather and grandson was stronger than ever. Grandfather asked if Cage was truly loyal to K. K answered no, but the path to Vanna was closed to him. "We can think of something," the grandfather replied. "Cage is a general, so he won't give up easily." But Grandpa had already thought of everything. K asked Grandpa if he knew how to make Cage obey. "It's a secret. He managed to return from the battlefield because someone helped him." K became curious. His grandfather answered, "They call him the killer of gods." "But he calls him little brother Percy," K cried out. "The one who is called the most powerful man. Who would have thought that he was a member of their family, and even an uncle?" The question arose as to why he had not been told about this until now. Grandfather explained that no one likes to talk about Percy, except him. No one even wants to remember him. He told about him that Percy became a great support from the shadows. And while K is here, let him remember that soon the sixth strongest will appear on the mainland. The one who can protect K, a little later at the training ground. Swords were thrown at K. There was no end to them. But he managed and dodged each one, which impressed the soldier. K said he didn't want his uncle's loss to look pathetic. He created huge vines, larger than he had created in the past. With this technique, K felt invincible. Self-confidence is at a level. K was unhappy with this. He still did not know his grandfather's plan. Grandfather stated that with the new title, K must defeat all his opponents. All these letters were a challenge to a duel with K. There were a lot of letters. Grandfather said that these were just loners. In the real world, other generals would want a duel. Only after K defeats all of his opponents will he be able to try his luck in a fight with Cage. K was able to become inspired and declared that he would not back down. A month later, K had gone through countless duels. He was prepared for battle, so he fought, studied, and practiced every skill. The man lost miserably to K, but the battlefield is his second home. And yet, he admitted his defeat. He declared that he saw the world in a different light. This was decisive. There will be no more duels. K can finally breathe a sigh of relief. He earned his status, and good thing, K wouldn't survive another month like this. Grandpa had good news. Cage is waiting in the next room. K didn't even want to listen to the end. He immediately rushed to Cage. He ran up and shouted, "Uncle, they can finally fight." Cage himself was looking forward to fighting K. They sat down at the table and began their battle. This time the system identified the steppe as the battlefield. Cage suggested changing the location. K refused. He knows it will give Cage an advantage. Cage was amused by K's self-confidence, and the fight began. And they began by placing their soldiers in their places. K looked relaxed and seemed confident. The system arranged everything: the army of Cage at the headwaters of the river, the army of K at the lower reaches. Then Cage said that it seemed that luck was not on K's side today. But K wasn't so sure about it, just a head start for Cage. If he were on top, he would have simply poured laxative into the river. Cage realized that K was cunning and had a lot of dirty tricks. The system announced the start of the duel, and Cage sent 40,000 soldiers to attack. It wasn't for nothing that Cage had the title of the strongest general. You have to be on your guard. K was careful in his actions and thought everything through. He sent 30,000 soldiers, Cage asked. K wants to detain him. K replied that his uncle had decided to take matters into his own hands, resourcefully. The battle continues. Its pace has accelerated slightly. On the first day, K's army was surrounded. On the second day, K's army suffered losses of 1,000 soldiers, and Cage's, 200. In the third, K lost 2,300, and Cage 230. Cage said K's army was doomed, but on the fifth day, when K's army was almost gone, he ordered the horses to be killed. To say Cage was surprised would be an understatement. He couldn't understand how the general could do such a thing. And K ordered the sixth plan of the operation to be carried out: direct fire. Then horses with boxes of gunpowder ran out of the forest. K's plan went like clockwork. The soldiers prepared arrows with fire. Now Cage realized he was in deep trouble. It was too late to order the soldiers to run away. Cage shouted that K was cruel. K replied that this is war. Sacrifice the cavalry and hundreds of horses. Their deaths were not in vain, as Cage's cavalry ended up suffering more casualties. Cage admitted that he underestimated K, but since K intends to play tough, then he will be serious. Cage said that the real battle is just beginning. Cage ordered to kill the enemy. K had about 10,000 warriors left. They are busy in the forest. K can count on the infantry to delay the attack. But the unexpected happened. The horses fell into K's trap. Cage didn't understand when K managed to do it. His army was trapped. Time has accelerated. Cage's losses amounted to 500 people. K asked if Cage hadn't noticed that his soldiers were still in the forest. The trap was there from the start. K sent soldiers to stall for time. That's when the fortifications were built. Then Cage lost men and horses. Cage asked if K thought he was the only one who could sacrifice pawns. He ordered a regrouping, but K immediately ordered the secret weapon to be taken out. Cage fell into another of K's traps. His people were burning in the fire. He admitted that K was the first opponent who had caused him such losses. K asked if Cage thought he had a chance to win. Cage stated that K wasn't the only one who could reason. He ordered the towers to be destroyed. But before the soldiers could do anything, the system announced K's victory. But Cage didn't agree with this. The system explained that Cage's barns in the rear had been destroyed. Cage became even more angry and asked when K's troops had managed to slip through. K explained that when the cavalry retreated, he hid the pair. Now Cage realized that he had truly lost. Cage admitted his defeat and swore allegiance to K. He apologized for putting spokes in K's wheels many times. Cage admitted that K was the best general, and he would serve him. The news that K had defeated Cage in combat spread quickly. K and his grandfather celebrated the long-awaited victory. Then the butler brought a message from the palace. Grandfather visibly tensed up, so K asked if something was wrong with the king. Then the grandfather read out that taking into account K's successes, the king gave permission for his own division. Called the Mad Dragon, 30,000 people. Cage was appointed the first Duke of the Kingdom and will become the commander of the Blue Lightning Legion. Mom didn't understand why the boys' faces were so gloomy. K explained that the division should consist of 100,000 people. Cage is his subordinate, but he was given a title, as if the king were rewarding K. But in reality it simply limits him. K needs to go to the king. K will achieve the status of the best general, but this is only the first step. Next will be a difficult journey with the king. The king found the simple carriage ride hard. The archbishop shouted at Peer to drive slower. Piru replied that they had to get there before nightfall, otherwise they would have to spend the night in the open air. And this is quite dangerous. The king can tolerate it. Piru said that K was feeling calm, but the king was going to vomit soon. K replied that after all, he couldn't help but make the king suffer. It got worse. K ordered to speed up. Stella asked if it was really that dangerous here. K explained that they needed to cross the border. There was a truce between them now. But there's no harm in being too careful, Piru suddenly shouted. He reported that there was a phalo ahead. K ordered to go forward. They reached a terrible place with a pile of corpses. Stella asked if this creepy place was the state of Carter. King Carter is famous for his tyranny and cruelty. K said that if he had been born here, he would have personally killed the king. They came to the king, and the tyrant met Edward. It seems the two have maintained a good relationship. Then the madman called the children, and he ordered to do a good service. The king apparently didn't care that they were children. Then the king noticed K and Stella. The pedophile began to harass Stella. The vile Edward told Stella to keep the tyrant company. Now it is clear why these two became friends, two perverted ones. K removed the pervert's hand and told the tyrant to behave with dignity. Otherwise he won't stand on ceremony. The pervert told K not to interfere. This didn't suit K. Something had to be cut off from this pervert. The tyrant shouted for the pervert Edward to order K to stop. Edward replied that he could not control this child. But again, K's actions are enough to start a war. K countered that if he had gone too far, the tyrant would be dead. Then the pervert suggested resolving this issue the man-to-man way. The pervert declared that this would be a battle to the death. K replied that he would be happy if he had the opportunity to deal with him himself. The pervert ordered his slave to come out, and he came out spectacularly. This is the strongest gladiator. The king is not only a pervert, but also a coward. K called out to Pyrrha, who was so eager to fight. They entered the arena, and the battle to the death began. The giant pounced on Piru, but Piru didn't seem too worried. Stella was worried about Piru, but K said he would be fine. Just don't expect it to be a quick win. The prey must be driven in slowly. The disgusting tyrant sat nearby. K never liked him, and this is a great opportunity to get rid of him. The battle was spectacular, but the tyrant just wouldn't shut up. Edward said they are both strong. It looks like the battle will be long. Then K asked why they didn't place bets to pass the time. He bet 5 million on Peru, and asked the king if he would bet less. The stake was not small. The tyrant did not expect the stakes to be so high, but seeing his slave, he decided that he had the advantage. And he bet 10 million, declaring that his country was rich. The tyrant laughed that Edward would have to fork out. The bait was taken. K gave the signal to Peer. The time has come to act. Piru will no longer hold back. He will show the true power of Berserker. Piru became angry and attacked the slave, cutting his sword in two. Now, Tyrant realized that Piru had been hiding his powers. He became worried and asked what was going on. Edward replied, the Berserker was angry in this state. No one can control his power. They decided to escape. The Berserker threw lightning bolts at everything that angered the Tyrant. The guards ran away, and the Tyrant shouted for them to stop him. But the guard replied that they were absolutely powerless. He would give the signal when they left, but the Tyrant declared that then the entire palace would be destroyed. And he blamed K for everything. The Tyrant shouted that K should take responsibility for everything. K reminded that the Tyrant himself proposed the duel, and this is normal behavior for a Berserker. The Tyrant shouted at K to stop the Berserker, but K only laughed. And he added that the Tyrant's slave had not yet lost. The battle would continue. The Tyrant declared that he admitted defeat. K asked, has the king forgotten the purpose of this duel if the king loses? Then he would apologize to his sister. The Tyrant froze. but then the berserker appeared. Then he quickly fell to his knees and asked for forgiveness. Kay told Peer enough and he stopped immediately. The tyrant was shocked that it all ended so quickly. He started screaming that Kay had destroyed his palace. Kay replied that he had earned a lot and could cover his losses. The king can deduct from his winnings, the rest can be given to his subordinates. Today the tyrant suffered a double defeat from the boy. Edward stated that he had never seen a worthy opponent for Kay. The tyrant stated that no one had ever spoken to him like that. It seems he came up with some kind of evil plan. At night, Kay woke up hearing a song. Opening the door, Kay saw the third princess. She was singing this song. Kay apologized and explained that he had been following the sound. Camilla explained that she was practicing the goddess selection ceremony was coming soon. She apologized for disturbing Kay. Kay said she sang wonderfully. This is definitely the best song he has ever heard. Not just a song, it's a hymn. Girls who own light magic will climb the mountain, and they will perform a song. If the song reaches her heart, the angel will descend, and the girl will receive a blessing. Kay replied, Camilla will eat superbly. She will definitely become a goddess. Camilla replied that this was not true. Otherwise, the position would not have been vacant for 50 years. A goddess loses her status when she marries, after which a new goddess is chosen. Camilla said that Stella should participate too. Kay replied that the king had decided not to participate this year. Camilla replied that the girl who became a goddess would have her own legion of guardians. In many small countries, the goddess is considered the protector of the entire country. The previous goddess was Lena, Kay's grandmother, so the king refused. And Kay didn't even know that his grandmother was a goddess. He only knew that she had killed 10,000 enemies in one night. Who knew that the bloody demoness was a saint? Camilla asked how Lena got such a nickname. Kay replied that his grandfather had seriously injured his leg in the war. His two uncles went to his rescue, but were killed. His grandmother could not bear the pain of losing her sons. In just one night, the entire group of enemies, including the commander, was destroyed. The culprit of everything was also supposed to become a victim, but the Pope saved him. She was incredibly strong. Why did she need the status of a saint? It seems Camilla has a new idol. She wanted to be as strong as Lena. Then she wouldn't have to do things she didn't like. Kay thought for a moment and took out a coin. It's an amulet, he blessed it. Kay gave it to Camilla. When she sings, he will protect her from any external interference. Camilla asked why he was helping her. Kay replied because he didn't understand her father. She is like his sister. He hopes she will achieve her goals. And finally, he will be able to protect himself. Kay thanked her for letting him listen to her sing. And he left. Camilla was touched by Kay's kindness. In the morning they boarded the ship, as if they were sailing on an ordinary ship. It would take several days, but this way they will get there in half a day. All thanks to magic, Kay said. Piru will overcome seasickness. Piru replied that the berserkers were not afraid of anything. Stella noticed the magicians. They are the ones that accelerate the ship's movement. And here's the holy capital, where the Pope lives. The old man ordered to receive the arriving guests. Cardinal Robert knows that Lena's grandson will also be here. Edward stepped forward and greeted Robert. Robert said he heard his students had arrived and decided to meet them personally. That is, the vice-chairman helped his students become kings, and they in turn helped him rise. Edward called Kay and introduced him to Robert, Lena's grandson and the youngest son of the Dragonblood family. Kay said hello, and Robert said he was polite, just like Lena. He suggested that Kay take a look around and return to the beginning of the duel. Let the divine light look into the store. Suddenly he noticed Stella. Kay thought Robert thought Stella would take part in the election of the goddess. Stella liked the city and was eager to take a look around. She went into every magic shop. Kay suggested that the best things are hidden. The higher you go, the higher the quality of the goods. Brighton asked where this redneck, another hooligan, came from. Kay said it seems like some people think they're better than others. The boy shouted, how dare the boy mess with his family. Kay said he didn't care what family they were from. The worker asked them to stop. The boy said, how dare they let rabble in here. Then the worker said that Brighton's father was the head of the Legion of Guardians of the Sacred Capital. Kay replied, let them ask who he was. The worker got angry and ordered Kay to be removed from here. It's time for Kay to teach these people a lesson. The shop owner came down because of the noise. The worker immediately turned Kay in and blamed him for everything. Kay asked if this was how Mr. Sai treated his regular customers. Sai shouted, why is Mr. Kay here? It looks like the owner will start to grovel to Kay. And so it happened. He asked why Kay didn't say he was coming. He would have met him personally. Then he yelled at his employees, because Kay was his best client. The worker immediately apologized to Kay. Sai told the boys that the things they asked for were not there. And now he needed to receive a dear guest. He invited Kay upstairs. Kay asked to show him the best goods. Sai was only glad. The boys got angry, because they also asked for these things. And Brighton also decided that Stella would take part in the ceremony. Suddenly he remembered that he had already heard Kay's name. Then he shouted, his family was never afraid. They will receive the weapon of light. The worker brought the jewelry to Kay, illusory gold and the melancholy of the King of Light Tigers. Essential items for crafting divine artifacts. Kay asked how much Sai was asking for them. Sai was already prepared to get rich. Kay gave the artifact of light to Stella, deciding that it would suit her. And the naive worker decided that Kay was a simpleton, and he decided to take advantage of this by offering 40 million for everything. Stella was scared by this price, but Kay didn't fall for the trick. Kay replied that the price had doubled and tripled once the artifacts had been in their hands. Sai got nervous and said he would give Kay a discount. The worker was worried that they would work at a loss, but Sai got angry and forbade him to fool Kay. Brighton asked what happened, and the worker told him everything. Brighton was consumed by envy, and his brother did not know the value of the artifacts. Then Brighton explained that these artifacts would help at the ceremony. Long ago, the father of the Light Tigers sacrificed himself to save his children. His power attracted the deity of light, Tiram, and the tigress handed the baby over to Tiram, and she decided to die with her beloved, leaving behind 2 magic cores. Tiram was touched by the love of the 2 creatures and created the tiger's longing from the magic cores. This is the source of love between 2 light tigers. Stella liked the necklace, and Kay decided to take it. The little girl didn't want to spend so much money, but her older brother asked her not to worry. He saw how much she liked the story about tigers. Stella promised to protect this symbol of pure love. His children immediately burst in and declared that Sai was underestimating their family. Sai replied that the buyer had already been identified, so nothing could be done. The boy ordered Kay to give them the necklace. Kay asked if he wanted to take his things away. That's how the family is, worse than stray dogs. The boy shouted that he would now show who was the boss in the capital. Kay just laughed, and Sai asked them not to have a duel here. There are so many treasures here. Stella was also worried about her brother. Suddenly, vines started growing out of the floor. But it turned out that Kay didn't do that. The boy couldn't even move. This is 5th tier light magic. Brighton couldn't believe that Stella did this. Kay took advantage of Brighton's distraction and attacked. Dealing with these 2 was as easy as pie. But Brighton decided that he was immortal, and challenged Kay to a duel. Kay knew it would be boring, but he accepted the challenge. Brighton, however, stated that Kay would regret it. The idiot said that it would be a life-and-death fight with him. Sai shouted, Brighton at least knows who Kay is. Clay the Scarlet Baron, he destroyed the entire Stormwind experience. He is also Lena's grandson. Even his brother suggested Brighton refuse. But Kay had no intention of giving them that opportunity. He started teasing them and asking if they were scared. Brighton, in a robotic voice, set the time and place. And the brother added that they decide how the duel will go. Kay asked why they didn't fight here and now. Suddenly Joe came running and Kay asked what he was doing there. Dean's ship docked and asked to call Kay. Dean wants to introduce Kay to his friend. And to discuss the battle, Kay said he still had things to do. The boys were lucky Brighton said that they would let Kay go. The panties rushed towards the exit as soon as Kay looked at them. Kay asked Sai to look after Stella and find her something worthwhile. They arrived at the arena and Kay greeted his dad. Dean introduced the prince and a friend from the Carter Kingdom. His name is Dazzling Tiger and General Irwin. Sebastian has heard about Kay and how Kay cheated his older brother. But he didn't get angry and asked Kay to sit down next to him. Kay knew of Uncle Irwin's exploits and considered him a role model. This made Irwin very happy. For this, Kay received a reward from his father, so that he would not be distracted from his work. Kay was surprised. They had just arrived and the battle had already begun. And his opponent will be a strong adversary. Dean replied, This injustice has been going on for hundreds of years. Sebastian shouted, This is a disgrace to the entire kingdom of Carter. It is because of these rules that Carter must lose to Meglin. Kay objected, It's not fair, then why fight at all? The Meglin Empire is stronger, all thanks to the Iron Front. The Meglins decided to use economic pressure as an expression of discontent. After this incident, the kingdom of Carter faced famine. In order to survive, Carter takes every opportunity to lose to Meglin. To calm their anger a little, Kay shouted, This is stupid. Economic pressure always works both ways. They can't rely on this method forever, Irwin said. Kay understands. Unlike the king, Sebastian was also irritated by this. Irwin promised to deal with Meglin. Kay asked in shock if Irwin would fight personally. Irwin was confident in his abilities, and yet Kay gave potions that improved physical characteristics. Kay asked to distribute them to the soldiers and teach Meglin a lesson. All is fair in war, but honor must not be forgotten. Having said this, Irwin walked into the arena. The battle was about to begin. Irwin walked out proudly to the applause of the people. And then the Meglin army came out. They looked terrible. The guards said they sent the midgets to fight Carter. The victory would be too easy. Carter's army really looked pathetic. This was already too unfair. Troops against martyrs. Kay shouted at Irwin to give up the fight, but Irwin was determined to show Kay that the soldier did not retreat. In short, Irwin went to certain death. Someone laughed and Kay shouted how one could laugh while watching people's misfortune. The bastard said, Of course it's funny. The king sent the old man to certain death. And he shouts about loyalty to the king. He didn't know that the Scarlet Baron was so sensitive. This is Prince Meglin, Carl. Kay must have heard of him. He thought Kay should be grateful that he was talking to him. The impudence was off the charts. Kay said he was too self-confident. And this prince turned out to be a coward. Then he heard people shouting for Meglin to kill Carter. Carl said it was just a show where the weak tried to please the strong. Kay replied that this time it was different. Erwin could win. The leader shouted. The bell rang. It was time to begin the battle. The Meglin army ran into the attack with a cry. Rushing into an attack without any defense is a loss. Erwin ordered not to panic, to split up and defend. Attacking head-on is not the best idea. It is better to go on the defensive and wait for the right opportunity to attack. It seems the prince is stupid and doesn't understand that Meglin is already surrounded. Now is the time to surround and attack. The Meglin army realized that the Carters were crazy. Their commander was still inactive, and Erwin was rushing towards him. Kay shouted, "Go ahead, Erwin, attack." Carl was completely confused and couldn't understand anything. Erwin attacked with the power of the holy sword, Carl screamed. He had never heard of such people in Carter. Kay replied, "This is the effect of the absolute berserker potion." Carl shouted. It was like trading his life for power. He had about 20 minutes left. Erwin refused to take the potion for the sake of honor. The prince suddenly laughed and said that it was all useless. Then Kay told him to listen to the encouraging speeches. Everyone was shouting Carter. Carter's soldiers won the moment they surrounded the enemy. The prince shouted to the soldiers to attack and not disgrace him. Then the soldiers shouted, "We must use all our strength." But the Carter army has no intention of retreating. In an instant, Erwin's hand flew into the sky. This is definitely the most brutal and unfair fight. Erwin was surrounded, one soldier asked him. Still willing to fight, General Carter is the last of his soldiers. Erwin responded, even if he is the only survivor. The general said it deserves respect, but why? This isn't the first loss, Erwin replied. That's exactly why. He cannot allow his homeland to be defeated again. The general then proposed to express respect for the convictions in a fair fight. But they have exactly the same reason not to lose. The battlefield was covered in blood, and Kay feared for Erwin. The prince was unhappy with the draw, but Kay declared that Erwin was still alive, and Carter had won. But the tyrant intervened and said Kay is wrong, they lost. He groveled to Prince Charles as best he could. He wants to throw away the sacrifice of his people and Erwin. Kay stated that Erwin was still alive, even if nothing could be done to help him. His death will not be in vain. The tyrant is furious. You can't interfere in the affairs of his kingdom. He ordered to stop Kay, Sebastian suddenly said. Kay is from another kingdom, but he has every right. They will still be slippery, the tyrant shouted. Erwin is already dead. After a fight, there's no use waving your fists. Kay wondered how such a shameless man became king. Erwin's sacrifice cannot be allowed to be in vain. Their quarrel is now in the spotlight. No one should notice. That Kay uses magic, just a little bit of healing magic. Let him scream his final battle cry. This will be enough. Let everyone hear the winner. The spectators shouted, General Erwin is still alive. Erwin stood up and shouted with all his might, Long live Carter. This touched the audience deeply. Kay said the general can rest in peace. He demonstrated true courage. Dean praised his son for the work he had done. Sebastian covered Erwin's body and thanked him for his work. Then he asked who still doubted that Carter had won this battle. The man said he wasn't sure Carter's army would win in a real fight. The tyrant began to fawn, and Kay asked who it was. Dean replied with contempt, King of Meglin. But a tyrant is worse. The king of Meglana complained that his reputation had been damaged, and he lost the money. The tyrant tried to negotiate. He offered them money, and Carl suggested that his father agree. The tyrant promised to compensate for everything, and Erwin is still dead. Suddenly the asshole declared that the corpse could be taken to the square and flogged. And Erwin has a family, they can be held responsible. The rotten inside was passed down through the generations, and the bastard's father accepted the offer. Kay and Sebastian were screaming that this was unacceptable. The tyrant ordered Sebastian to give them the body. Kay couldn't stand it and screamed, It's stupid. Meglin thinks they'll let him go if he does this. The tyrant shouted that Kay had no right to interfere. Kay shouted that he respected the general. But the tyrant again ordered Sebastian to give up Erwin's body and flog him. Sebastian said it over his own dead body. King Meglin said that even his people don't listen to King Carter. He ordered Cass to help him. Lightning flew towards Erwin. Such power and warrior spirit. This is the holy sword. Dean stopped the knight and called him a stupid knight. The man said that Dean was still the same lover of meddling in other people's business. Ice Sword Master Cass, Kay tensed up. A strong opponent. He's quite dangerous. Dean should be careful. But Cass's attack was so powerful that Dean literally froze. Cass had already started celebrating his victory and laughing at Dean. And he declared that true strength is the treasures in which it is contained. No matter how he twists the dragon's sword, he can't cope with it. The prince screamed for Cass to kill Dean. Kay asked if they wanted to kill his father. Seriously, the prince asked. He is immobilized so Dean can strike back. Cass prepared for another attack. Just don't underestimate Dean. He wasn't at all surprised by Cass's attacks, considering them simple. Dean asked what Cass had been doing for all those years. The dragon armor with the power of the god of light has been activated. Not only that, but Dean has a poisonous dragon sword. Now Dean will show off his strength. Cass will never match Dean's strength. At that moment, Cass realized that Dean was a real monster. The prince shouted, "A swordmaster relies only on equipment. Shame." Kay recalled that the prince himself had been chatting about treasures. "It's so hard to accept defeat," the prince will declare. "He will not stand on ceremony." All the soldiers instantly pounced on Dean. There was no talk of honor. But they couldn't compare to Dean. They all fell in a couple of seconds. Kay was very proud of his father, but the prince continued to rage. He said that if Cass lost, their reputation would suffer. The prince ordered an attack on Kay. They began to attack Kay, at first verbally. They wanted to distract Dean, but Dean believed in his son's strength. He knew that for Kay this was just training. The soldiers were offended that Kay said so proudly that he would win in a minute. If Kay uses magic scrolls, it will look like a beating, and not for battle, so he will take the sword in his hands. A great opportunity to try out a new style of Tai Chi fighting. After he came to this world, he never used the powers of the past. He tried to combine Tai Chi techniques with magic. There is very little spiritual energy in this world, and yet the acupuncture points are the same. Kay's strength frightened the prince. He had never seen anything like it. Cass relies only on treasure, Kay said. Today he will teach Carl a lesson. He is not like Charles, the prince shouted. Let them bring his head. Kay used the Taiji blade and quickly eliminated the enemies. He told his dad that he was almost finished. It would be a shame if Dean lost to his son. So Dean shouted for the soldiers to stop running. He didn't want to lose face. Dean was determined. Seeing that Dean was accumulating energy, the enemies decided to kill him. Father's aura was powerful. Even Kay was surprised. This is the secret technique of the Dragon Blood family. Edward asked Kay to stop Dean. If Dean uses this move, they won't win their battle. As expected, Dean's attack was massive. With so many victims, Meglin is sure to have problems. People were amazed by Ding's power. They shouted that it was the power of the sword god. A frightened Carl screamed, "Dean wants to declare war on Meglin." Kay reminded us who started this whole mess. Carl wanted to yell, but suddenly started coughing. The king claimed that Kay had done something to his son. Kay said he didn't do anything. It was all because of the internal injuries he received. The king told Edward to do something, but Edward didn't know who he feared more. And yet he decided to go over to Kay's side, saying that he couldn't avoid getting injured in the arena. Kay said the king should be grateful that his target was Cass. Ed said that Meglin better take care of his son. But before leaving, Meglin threatened Kay again. Ed was being a bit too showy, shouting that Stormwind wasn't Carter. They won't lose. Unexpectedly, the king was stopped. Cass asked to be saved because he was risking his life for him. I won't argue. I fought for my kingdom to the end. But the king Cass fought for didn't think so. Then he also boasted that he killed him, and not Dean. And Ed fawned and praised Meglin. Rotten people, what can I say? Kay ran up and said that father could leave the stand. After all, everyone left, but Dean fell unconscious. Luckily, Dean just got weak and that's all. All he needs is a little rest. Ed was surprised that Kay didn't know about family techniques. Dean's technique is a divine skill if it weren't for the artifacts. Dean would have died, and it would take 3 months to recover his strength. Ed screamed that Dean would embarrass him. Why did he use this technique? Dean answered because he had made a bet with Kay, and he couldn't lose to his son. Not a very good answer. Ed stated that Kay would take responsibility, but Berserker Kay suffered from seasickness and is also being treated. Ed was in a panic when suddenly a messenger from the Retinue Legion arrived. Then Ed remembered his trump card Lena West could help them. Commander Sasha greeted the king. It turned out that Sasha and Dean knew each other. She said that Lena was inviting them to the Holy Mountain. Hearing that his mother wanted to see him, Dean began to get ready, and Kay became curious about the relationship between these two. A little later, they climbed the mountain, but Kay had a hard time. He could barely breathe. Then he took out a scroll to restore his strength. The wall tells the story of the creation of the Holy Mountain. The temple is located at the top to get there. You have to pass through the domain of the 12 cardinals. On the other side is the Inquisition. Kay approached the huge statue and was impressed by it. Sasha couldn't get past the question of whether Dean's soul would be as bad as Ed's. Dean shouted that they were just friends. But should you trust the man? Lena called Dean. He straightened up and said that he came with his son. When they entered, Lena shouted that Dean was late. It seems that no one in this world gets old, Kay said hello to his grandmother. As a gift, Kay brought her honey from amethyst bees, and this grandmother fell in love with her grandson. Although Lena seemed sweet, she was incredibly strong. She wanted to look into Kay's soul to see his intentions. Her power is already comparable to that of the sword god. But Kay's soul is not from here. Will she be able to achieve her goal? She had to stop because Dean couldn't handle the pressure. Kay managed to make an impression. Lena was pleased. Lena said she would take the honey to settle things with the Sivan family. Dean didn't know that Kay had a fight with them. He wasn't happy about it, but Kay didn't see anything wrong with it. The Sivan family is very influential. It's good that Lena intervened. This family has always been arrogant. It's good that Kay taught them a lesson. Kay regretted causing trouble for Lena, but she asked him not to worry. Grandma decided to give Kay a present. He can choose whatever he wants. Kay wanted to choose everything. Suddenly he noticed a book. Dark manuscript, of course. That's what Kay chose. Lena said it was dangerous and suggested choosing something else. But Kay had already made his choice. Then Leon asked if Kay knew what it was. Kay replied, "Of course, the book contains all the existing spells. He wants it precisely because he knows what it is." Lena said that Kay should know that everyone who owned this book. They didn't die a natural death. She asks to leave the book here. But Kay wanted to solve the mysteries of the book. He was confident in himself. Lena shouted that inside the book there was a lich of incredible power. Even she can't handle him. Kay asked if she had met him. Trapped lich is the first deity in history. It was a long time ago, and she was traveling then. The powers of the dark manuscript could no longer hold him back. If it weren't for Lena and her husband, the white dragon would have become possessed. Kay asked if he dealt with it. She would give him the book. The story didn't seem to impress him, Lena said. With his powers, it was impossible. But Kay replied that he had an assistant. He asked Will to come out and say hello to his grandmother. Little Will grew up, but was still capricious. Even Candy didn't calm her down. Kay told him about the contract with the Queen of the Elements, and that Will was helping him. Now Lena understood why Kay was so confident in himself. Kay took advantage of the moment and said he would take the book. Grandma told him to be more careful. Today Kay acquired something incredibly interesting. Suddenly the girl shouted who he was. He didn't even say hello to Miss Ben. No manners. Kay asked what she was talking to him about. The little girl answered. He doesn't know who she is, but he dared to come here. Let him remember. She's the boss here. He should treat her with respect. The whole holy mountain is hers. Then she noticed the ring on Kay's hand and she liked it. She ordered to give it to him as compensation. The baby looks like a robber. Kay told her to try to take the ring back, but it turned out that Miss was not an easy one. She was actually going to fight. Kay used a magic circle. Somehow the little girl managed to get through the circle. Not only that, she has scales. It looks like she's not human. Of course, she is not an ordinary person. The figure of the dragon that Lena spoke of appeared. This meant that Kay also needed to fight seriously. The little girl had no techniques, but she moved confidently. Kay finally managed to attack her with Taiji magic, the power of 3, but the baby didn't react to this in any way. Then Kay decided to strike with Tai Chi magic, the power of 5. However, this did not work either. Miss may be small, but she is strong. Kay had to work hard. He used the power of 7. Finally, the attack worked, although there wasn't a scratch on her. And since she was still a child, she started crying. Screaming that Kay was bullying her, she started throwing stones at Kay. Kay screamed for someone to calm her down. If this continued, he would be beaten to death. The baby pounced on Kay, but he got out and attacked her. Even an elephant couldn't withstand such a blow, no matter how strong it was. This should calm things down for a while. Kay used superiority magic. She was still in good shape. The only thing that bothered her was that her shoes were damaged. Paul is blessed with strength and is as strong as steel. They did not withstand the blow, and there is not a scratch on the baby. She was angry that the shoes were damaged and demanded compensation. It was time to use the vines. Kay attacked the baby with them. The first time, Miss dodged, but the second time, Kay was able to catch her. Then he threw her down with such force that the floor cracked. Lena came to the noise and was unhappy with the atmosphere in the hall. The baby was not harmed in any way by the attack, but she complained that Kay was bullying her. Lena asked why Kay was bullying Katyusha. Kay explained the situation. Then Lena said, "Katyusha is at it again. It seems she does this often." Why is Lena so patient with her? Katyusha told her that Kay had ruined her shoes. Lena promised that Kay would pay for it. Then the little girl happily galloped off somewhere. Then Lena asked how Kay could fight with a little girl. Kay replied that she was a real T-Rex. Lena replied that she was actually a dragon, a white dragon. Kay asked, since she was still a child, how could she take on human form? She is the princess of the dragon clan. The elder helped her gain this form when Katyusha wanted to go with Lena. It seemed like she liked Kay too, Kay shouted. Not at all. Lena explained that Kay was able to fight her without getting hurt. And since Kay was able to withstand it, she can rest assured that everything will be fine in the battle with Meglin. Kay said he would deal with the King of Stormwind. Lena said that they could go. Tomorrow's banquet would be eventful. Kay asked how long the banquet would last. He had some important things to do. Dean replied that tomorrow was the Pope's birthday, and the celebration would last a month. A whole month is too much honor for one old man. Back home, Kay finally started studying the book. Opening the book, the Lich appeared and asked, "Just a kid. He will take his body." Kay wasn't impressed and told him to go away and read a book. Leech said he wondered if the kid would be able to keep his cool when he showed him what real terror was. Kay replied that he had been practicing the golden immortality techniques for hundreds of years. Some Lich won't be able to get into his head. Now the Lich realized that Kay wasn't joking and that he couldn't handle him. He flew back and Kay asked if it was the first deity in history. The phantom deity Bular, isn't it? The Lich asked. The kid wants to absorb his power. Kay laughed and said, Bular is too weak. Besides, what a terrible person he would be if he did that. He doesn't need power, and he also wants to free Bular, which the Lich didn't expect. He can do it, but it all depends on the Lich's behavior. Lich asked what he should do, Kay replied. Find out. He won't force the Lich. He needs to maintain his image. The Lich replied that he could only offer his loyalty. Although his strength has weakened, he hopes that Kay will accept him as an assistant. He took out a piece of his soul as evidence. Since Lich is open with him, he will not break his promise. A little later, Kay created a circle. Lich asked if it could really help. Kay turned on the boss and asked if the Lich doubted him. Lich replied that the thing was that he had never seen circles. Kay said that he learned to build it according to secret Eastern techniques. The Lich came up and immediately started screaming. But it looks like everything is going according to plan. This water contains energy from hell. It is the best remedy for the Lich. Kay threw water at the Lich so that he would be reborn on that day. And in order not to sow panic in the world, Kay will call Carrie. Kay kept his word, so Carrie promised to serve him faithfully. This body consists of the purest energy. It will be more powerful than the previous ones. Kay will tell everyone that Carrie is a subordinate magician, and now Carrie needs to clean up here. He asked Carrie not to use all his powers, so as not to be suspected. The Pope can recognize him. The magical art allows him to see the true essence of things. Then Kay added a protective spell. With it, Carrie's identity would not be revealed. In the morning, Kay greeted Ed and introduced him to Carrie. Carrie greeted the king and introduced himself. The Archbishop shouted, "Only the king can appoint the first magician." But Ed was afraid of Kay, so he turned a blind eye to this and allowed Carrie to join his squad. Carrie explained that he could only serve Kay, and if that didn't happen, he would simply leave. This offended the Archbishop and he shouted at him to leave, for he thought so highly of himself. Kay shouted back, "This is his man, who is the Archbishop, to drive him away." And yet the king decided to side with Kay, because now the battle with Meglin was more important. Ed said he called Kay to ask if he had any ideas on how they could defeat Meglin. King Meglin appeared and asked if Ed had finally dared to challenge him. The man pointed his sword and said, "This is the one who humiliated the king. Let him fight him. Meglin's shame will be forgotten." Din did not expect this. "It was the holy sword of the earth, Max," he said. "If he was afraid, let him kneel." And he asks forgiveness from his king, but then his sword is pushed aside. Kay asked if the Meglin people only knew the language of cruelty and taking advantage of the weakness of others. How mean to attack his father when he was exhausted after that battle. It turned out Max didn't know about it. He suggested postponing the battle. He couldn't revoke the challenge, but they could choose the time. Kay replied that Max could challenge someone else. It would be an honor for him if Max fought his mage. If Carrie loses, he is willing to lose his hands if it will satisfy their bloodlust. Max accepted Kay's offer and punished him to keep his word. There were a lot of people in the arena. Everyone was arguing about who would win. Most people thought that Max would win, since no one had heard of the magician. "The magical barrier has already been raised," Max declared. "It's too late to beg for mercy now. The dome protects those outside, but also prevents those inside from escaping." This had never happened in previous battles, but since the battle would be large-scale, they decided to raise the dome. In fact, the main reason is important guests. The princes and aristocrats of the capital gathered here. Kay was unhappy, because this would have been a good opportunity to make some money. He ran down and asked to release the barrier. He had something to say. They let him in, and Kay shouted that today they had the opportunity to attend a grand event. And to make it even more spectacular, he suggests placing bets. He will bet 2 million on the victory of the magician Carrie. Anyone present here can place a bet of any amount. Kay's self-confidence either impressed or angered the aristocrats. Ed asked why Kay decided to do this privately. Kay replied, "Most will bet on Max, they will bet on Carrie." Ed asked if Kay was sure. Kay answered, 100%. Then Ed declared, "He's 70, Kay's 30. Kay shouted, 50-50 maximum." Then Ed vouched for Kay and offered to place bets. People immediately started shouting out their bets. Carl believed that Max would definitely not lose. The king also counted and bet 10 million. All bets are off. Now it's time to fight. Kay told Carrie to use spells up to level 10. An easy victory is not in their favor here. Carrie promised that everything will be for the best. The battle began, and the dome was closed again. Carrie was casting spells. Max guessed that Carrie was a dark magician, so he was not surprised. "Curses to the holy sword are like a poultice for the dead," said Max. Suddenly, riders of terror ran out of the portals. They are not inferior in strength to gold-ranked knights. Even a great sorcerer can only summon 2. And Carrie called 4 at once. You shouldn't underestimate him. But Max believed that Carrie was still far behind him in any case. Max really can't be looked down upon. His powers are powerful. This is a technique comparable to the techniques of the sword god. In an instant, all the horsemen are beheaded. Kay asked if this premium was really that powerful. Dean replied, practically divine. This magician is in great danger. Max was already prepared for the next attack. Carrie blew smoke at Max, but it didn't frighten Max at all. Smoke completely enveloped Max and people in the stands became restless. Kay said, "A bunch of overconfident fools, jumping to conclusions ahead of time. The real show is just beginning, and everyone present will enjoy it to the fullest." He has a piece of Carrie's soul in his hands. He can see what is happening on the battlefield. Literally through Carrie's eyes, it looks like Max is having a hard time right now. Carrie remembered that Kay had forbidden him from using spells above the 10th level. This is not a problem. He has quite a lot of 7th, 8th level spells in his arsenal. Rage spell causes the subject to lose their temper. But Max did not go crazy and did not die. He is worthy of the title of Swordmaster. Carrie has waited too long for his release, so he doesn't want to. For all the fun to end so quickly and yet still hit hard. Carl asked if everything should be all right. Meglin wasn't worried at all. After listening to his father, Carl calmed down and again believed in their victory. While the king and his son were laughing, the dome slowly collapsed. People were wondering who won. The smoke cleared and Carrie was standing in the arena. Carrie won. Meglin didn't expect that. Kay was wondering how many spells Carrie had used. But none of them are fatal. The worst is yet to come. This is exactly what those who point the sword at his father deserve. People who lost money became angry and threw stones at Carrie. And Meglin experienced another shame because of Kay. They wanted to run away, but Kay stopped him and asked if the great king had lost and wanted to run away. Meglin shouted that this was not so. Then Kay asked to deposit the money as soon as possible. Carl fell down and said that he admitted defeat and asked for mercy. Meglin shouted for his son not to fall on his knees before some baron. Then he declared that even if he had to sell all the horses, he would never give in to Kay. Carl shouted that they themselves really needed war horses. The psychotic king shouted at his worthless son to get lost. Grandfather said that these horses have incredible power. So Kay said that since it was from the heart, he couldn't help but accept their offer. Suddenly, a girl appeared and said that she would buy these horses. Kay froze again. He felt Erica's aura. It was the 7th princess of the Vanna kingdom. She said they decided to buy all the horses. Here is the deposit. Kay couldn't tell if it was Erica. Maybe he was just frozen by the princess's beauty. He didn't even move, so Erica asked if he was even listening. Kay replied that he was sorry, but the kingdom of Meglin had given him the horses for debts. He can't sell them. The princess knew how valuable the horses were, and she didn't want to give them into the hands of another kingdom, so she offered Meglin to pay for them. Meglin understood that he could not spoil relations with 2 kingdoms at once. Therefore, Meglin suggested arranging a duel between them. He promised to give 100 war horses to the winner. The princess accepted the offer and said that if Kay could win, she would give him another 10 wolves to boot. Kay asked if she was sure the entire continent knew about his berserkers. He didn't want to offend the princess, she thought. Kay was bluffing. Piru is still sick. Now no one can compete with her. He said, even if their kingdoms were destined to fight, this should not be at Meglin's behest. The princess understood that too. She replied that everyone had gathered here to participate in the tournament. There is no need to decide right now. Her army will not lose. She immediately guessed Meglin's intentions and left without losing face. Smart and beautiful, just like Erica, Kay was impressed. But it was still unclear if it was really Erica. Meanwhile, Stella was waiting for her brother with Lei outside the arena. Suddenly a familiar guy appeared and asked why she was here alone. She ordered him not to come closer, otherwise he would get what he got last time. The boys immediately became scared when a girl suddenly appeared. Their older sister Lydia asked if a simple light technique was enough to scare them. The boys whispered that Stella got the pendant they wanted to buy her. They want to take the pendant from Stella again. Lydia asked to sell it to her. Stella explained that it was a gift from her brother, so she would take care of it. This was enough for Lydia to get angry and hit Stella. A bitch like her will never become a goddess of light.